What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 9 Shish. Chapter 241 Stop Learning Hashirama, You Counterfeit Part 5 Please subscribe. What an amazing chakra is this. Before coming, although Uchiha Madara had fantasized about how powerful the existence behind the masked man was, when he really stood in front of the masked man and felt the chakra released intentionally or unintentionally by Shunsei, he was still beyond shocked. Never in his lifetime has such a massive chakra been seen. Not to mention that Senju Hashirama cannot be compared, even if the chakra of the nine-tailed beasts are all pieced together, chakra is just like this, and it may even be worse. Indigenous, it seems that you understand. It's not in vain for you, a strange old friend, to plead for you. After seeing all the changes in Uchiha Madara's expression, Shion's indifferent eyes flashed a trace of satisfaction. Those who have reached the category of the Sengoku Three Masters, even if they don't have to fight, can roughly feel the gap between them just by meeting each other. Of course, this is not a difference in combat power, but strength. There are many factors that can affect combat power. In addition to one's own strength, combat awareness, experience, on-the-spot adaptability, skills, and mastery and understanding of techniques, etc., will all affect the transformation of strength. Strange old friend. Uchiha Madara suppressed the horror in her heart, and couldn't help but glance at the masked man. No matter what you are looking for me for, since I have already come, if you want to come, there should be no need for him to continue to hide his head and show his tail, right? As he spoke, he stared at the masked man. Can you, Mr. Sixian? The masked man didn't respond to Uchiha Madara immediately, but looked at Sixian. He will carry out missions with you in the future, since your old friend is so determined, then you will satisfy him. When Shion heard this, a meaningful smile appeared on his face. At this moment, he seemed to be enjoying a big drama that was about to be staged. Have you heard? Your master has spoken. Uchiha Madara ignored the playfulness in Sixian's eyes, his attention was all on the masked man. Madara, you are still the same as before. It is not a good habit to be so arrogant even though you have clearly realized how unfavorable the situation is to you. If you are so arrogant, Mr. Shion will beat you to death even if I hold you back. The voice and tone of the masked man completely changed. You, who do you think you are? How dare you teach me, Uchiha Madara, how to do things? Uchiha Madara heard the change in the voice of the masked man, and his pupils tightened unconsciously. This voice is so familiar. Even after an era, he has not forgotten. Can't you change your name? The masked man gave a wry smile, and then, under the gaze of Uchiha Madara, reached out and took off the mask on his face. Long black hair, eyes like black diamonds, and that familiar face that he can recognize even if it turns to ashes, all of these tell him that the identity of the masked man. Senju Hashirama, it's really you. Although Uchiha Madara was mentally prepared, he couldn't help but take a breath when he saw that the face of the masked man was exactly the same as Senju Hashirama. No, it's impossible. Hashirama is dead, and his heart. I just dug it out not so long ago. Say, who are you? Why do you look exactly like Hashirama? Why do Hashirama's wood style and sage art? Why did you come to me? After a long while, Uchiha Madara just recovered from his absence. Although the face is the same, the wood style and sage art cannot be faked, but he is sure that the person in front of him is not the Senju Hashirama in his memory. Why are they the same? That's all I can say. Both intuition and reason are telling him that what happened to the two Senju Hashirama must be done by Sixian. This makes me very upset. Uchiha Madara really doesn't know what to do with this Senju Hashirama paper. Madara, because I am Senju Hashirama, of course I know wood style, sage art, and of course I grew up like this. Quote. No, it cannot be said to be similar, it should be said to be exactly the same. Senju Hashirama touched his head, as if he was a little distressed and didn't know how to explain it, and then he said. He clearly knew that the other party was a counterfeit, but the other party was exactly the same as the original Hashirama in terms of face, tone, habits, hobbies, and even wood style and sage art, which made him think that what he was facing was the real Senju Hashirama. Fake. I'm really not a fake. Seeing this, Uchiha Madara, who had a ferocious face and even a hysterical tone, opened his mouth Jiao Qian Jiao but couldn't utter a word. So similar. Uchiha Madara saw that the actions, expressions, and habits of the fake in front of him were all the same as the Senju Hashirama in his memory, and his expression suddenly became extremely ferocious, as if the person in front of him was not pretending to be Senju Hashirama, but him same. 0. Even if not, they are inextricably linked. Helpless, distressed and overwhelmed, he could only turn his head and stare at Shion. Senju Hashirama suddenly lowered his head, with a look of inferiority and a great blow. Quote. Damn. Stop doing Hashirama, you imposter. Although my wood style and sage art are stronger than the Hashirama you remember, and it's the first time I've met you, you can't say I'm a fake. What on earth is it? Chapter 242 Based on that year, I planted a sacred tree, please subscribe to Chapter 6. As you see, and as he said, he is not a counterfeit, but the real Senju Hashirama. Facing Uchiha Madara who was a little out of breath, Sixian's poker face couldn't help showing a joking expression. Obviously, he was very satisfied with Shiyu Zebo Madara's reaction. Stop lying, do you think I have Hashirama's IQ? After Uchiha Madara finished speaking reflexively, he couldn't help but glance at Senju Hashirama at the side. Sure enough, The other Senju Hashirama in front of him heard his words and looked more sad than heartbroken. I'm not talking about you, Hashirama. No, hey, forget it. I guess it doesn't matter if you are counted. I can tell by the look of you that you belong to the same, not so bright people as Hashirama. Uchiha Madara wanted to swear, but seeing Senju Hashirama's face, he couldn't swear again. At this moment, he didn't know how to describe his mood. In short, he would rather fight with Carl again, even if he was pinned down by Carl and rubbed on the ground again, he would not face this man with Senju Hashirama's face on his face. It's not very smart. So Madara, you've always looked at me like this. Fortunately, before I died, I kept holding Tobirama to prevent him from investigating the cause of your death. Hey, it was a wrong payment after all. Hearing this, Senju Hashirama squatted down on the spot and stretched out his hands to draw circles on the ground. Uchiha Madara broke the defense directly. There was simply no way to sustain Uchiha's arrogance. Do you still think he's a fake now? Sixian looked at the dumbfounded Uchiha Madara with a half smile. He was extremely satisfied with Senju Hashirama in front of him. It can even be said to be his highest masterpiece. If Uchiha Madara doesn't have this reaction, doesn't that mean his work is flawed? Although I don't know what happened, there is only one Hashirama, and the body is lying in the Hokage cemetery in Konoha. Not long ago, I dug his grave and dug out his heart. It's Hashirama, not you. What are you sad about here? In the middle of Uchiha Madara's speech, Senju Hashirama in front of him showed a sad expression again, as if he was the one whose heart was dug out, and blue veins appeared on his forehead. Do not know why, he had the idea that it would be better to die directly under Carl's fist in the Fourth Ninja World War. Maybe it's because I don't know how to face Senju Hashirama. When he saw this familiar face, he subconsciously avoided it. I don't want to either, but I am Hashirama. Senju Hashirama continued to squat on the ground, muttering softly. You've seen enough of this farce. Now can you tell me, what's going on? Uchiha Madara took a deep breath, trying not to look at Senju Hashirama's face, turned to Sixian and asked. Indeed, this scene is almost finished. After Sixian enjoyed the play, the banter on his face gradually disappeared. I don't want to know anything else, you just need to answer my 3 questions. Who are you, Pillar? Who is this guy like Hashirama? And what do you want me to do? Uchiha Madara returned to his usual aloofness, but when Senju Hashirama looked at him pitifully, his eyelids still twitched slightly. Who I am? Didn't I already tell you when you came in? Indigenous. Quote. Sixian obviously has no interest in answering the same question. Master of the ninja world. Why? Uchiha Madara remembered Sixian's self-introduction. Why do you ask me? Listen up then, native. Just you, Senju Hashirama, and even all the chakra in the ninja world are my private property. In that year alone, I planted a sacred tree. Ask for flowers. It is because of you that Uchiha Madara can come to this world, and it is also because of me, a person in heaven, that I can have the current Rinnegan and eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Are you satisfied with this answer? Indigenous. Quote. Sixian thought about it seriously, and then replied word by word. No. Impossible. If you are the one who planted the sacred tree, the one who ate the sacred tree. Indigenous people, put away your arrogance and self-righteousness. If I hadn't planted the sacred tree, how could a lowly person like you have the opportunity to master chakra, and how could you master the power that only heavenly beings are qualified to master? Sixian looked directly into Uchiha Madara's eyes, and every word sound was like a heavy hammer swung out, hitting the heart of this ninja Shura. Although it is difficult for a native like you to accept this, it is a pity that this is the truth of the ninja world, and the origin of chakra. So, you should know who you are facing, right? Oh, are you talking about the Uno goddess of the ninja world? Only in this way can he explain why he always feels inferior when facing Sixian, just like those Uchiha people who did not open the Sharingan when facing him who opened the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. It has nothing to do with strength, it is purely the suppression of the pulse. If it sounds better, you can understand that he is from the same family as me. Sixian once again said something surprising. Uchiha Madara looked at Sixian in a daze. He never dreamed that the person in front of him had such a great background. 0. Only in this way can Sixian's chakra be so huge. Upon hearing this shocking news, Uchiha Madara couldn't help being stunned. The 6 update is completed, please subscribe and support, I am very grateful. I am very grateful, too. To put it directly, you can understand that she is a servant of yours. WWW.M. He wanted to deny the other party's words, but he couldn't deny it. Chapter 243 Cyborg Senju Hashirama. He is my most satisfying work, part 1 more please subscribe. The person who planted the sacred tree, so ancient existence can live until now. Uchiha Madara stared straight at Sixian suspended in midair, the shock in her heart was like a tossing sea, unable to calm down for a long time. The Uno goddess is old enough. The existence that ate the chakra fruit. But he didn't expect that Sixian's background was more terrifying than the goddess Uno, and he was actually the one who planted the sacred tree. In comparison, even if the Sage of 6 Paths appeared in front of him, he didn't think it was a big deal. I'm different from a native like you, who spends his whole life pursuing for that little power, but still can only reach this point. 797. Si Xian stated his greatness in a flat tone. I don't need to practice, I don't need to study, I don't need any help, I don't even need to grow up through battles, I've surpassed you the best natives from the moment I was born. Acquired natural growth is even better than your so-called hard work and cultivation. I don't know how many times. Naturally, life expectancy is something that you dream of and can't get. Naturally, I can have as much as I want. Quote. Speaking of this, Shion spread his hands, with a natural expression. Huh, what about him? After a while, Uchiha Madara just digested the huge amount of information. Who is this guy with Hashirama's head on? He turned his head and pointed at Senju Hashirama, ignoring the depressed and sad expression on the other side's face, and asked Shion on his own. You said him. This is the second Senju Hashirama, of course it is my most satisfying work. Don't rush to deny that although he is my work, it doesn't change the fact that he is Senju Hashirama. When Shion looked at Senju Hashirama, a trace of satisfaction flashed in his dark eyes. That look is exactly like the artist admiring his favorite collection. Work. Uchiha Madara muttered the two words. Yes, it's a work. A work I created with my own hands, better than Uchiha Madara, and better than the first Senju Hashirama. Without exception, his wood style, sage body, and chakra are all superior to the first Senju Hashirama who defeated you, because he was given by me to be more complete than the first Senju Hashirama, and closer to my family sage body. This is one of the gaps between natives like you and me. Even if it is a fabricated work, it is still better than the best existence among your works. Quote. Shion pointed at Senju Hashirama, his tone was full of satisfaction with Senju Hashirama. Yin and Yang escape. Uchiha Madara frowned. Shion's words made him immediately think of Yin Yang done. According to the legend, the Sage of Six Paths created all things, relying on Yin and Yang escape. It's just, even if it's really Yin Yang done, he still finds it inconceivable. He couldn't imagine how powerful Yin Yang done could create a Senju Hashirama from nothing. Everything is exactly as he guessed, as Shion said, so doesn't that mean that as long as the person who planted the sacred tree in front of him is willing, he can completely fabricate a second Uchiha Madara, or even a third Uchiha Madara? As long as I'm willing to waste this chakra, that's fine. The difference between the two should be the amount of time and chakra's contribution. Shion said lightly. Shion thought of something, and directly renamed Senju Hashirama in front of him. Uchiha Madara couldn't help being shocked by Shion's words. Whether it is yin yang done or artificial human, these are all products beyond the scope of his ability. However, in order to facilitate the understanding of natives like you, I will try to make you understand in a language you can understand. He is based on the gene of the first Senju Hashirama, combined with the chakra of the god tree, and the works created by the chakra. Oh, by the way, compared to yin yang done, I'm actually more inclined to call this kind of work an artificial human, or God created a human. Cyborg. After all, it takes time and chakra to make such a work, but because this kind of work is very good, it can be grown up the day after tomorrow. If you can understand it, it is practice. Uchiha Madara couldn't help asking. Because of me and the chakra of the divine tree, his sage body is closer to my family, and closer to the divine tree. Quote. Uchiha Madara was silent. Yin-yang escape is also divided into high and low, this is not in your understanding, let alone the yin-yang escape you have mastered. It's really that Shion's tone is too relaxed, and he is basically saying to him Uchiha Madara, whether it is to create a ready-made Senju Hashirama with the strength of a ninja god, or to create a 1.1 ninja god qualification, you can practice it the day after tomorrow Senju Hashirama, releasing Buddha is just an extremely easy thing. It is true that he can escape from yin and yang, but it is difficult to create a human being, let alone create an enhanced version of Senju Hashirama like Shion. In other words, I can spend a little more chakra and time to create a Senju Hashirama with the strength in front of you in one breath. I can also create a Senju Hashirama with initial strength rifles, but through self-cultivation, I can witness his growing up step by step. Hashirama. Did I understand that? You can create a third Hashirama, a second Uchiha Madara if you want. Chapter 244. Shion vs Uchiha Madara, Part 2. Please subscribe. Madara, now you understand. Don't be too rude to Mr. Shion. In most cases, he can tolerate your rudeness, but if you pass it, then I can't hold him back. This time, I can persuade him to change his mind and let you survive, and I won it for you after talking about it. Senju Hashirama whispered in Uchiha Madara's ear. Uchiha Madara looked at the face in front of him, really wanted to punch him away, but couldn't. Even if he knew that the second Senju Hashirama in front of him was just created using the genes of Senju Hashirama in his memory as a blueprint, the so-called artificial human. Since it's so easy for you to create a Senju Hashirama, it shouldn't be too difficult to create a Uchiha Madara, so why did you let this guy bring me here? Don't tell me it's because of this guy's intercession. As I said just now, I am completely different from a person with Hashirama's IQ. Hashirama and this idiot in front of you are okay with this kind of nonsense. Trying to trick me into Uchiha Madara. Dreaming. As Uchiha Madara said 15, she controlled her gaze, not to look at Senju Hashirama's depressed face. He felt that he couldn't stay with this guy anymore, and if he spent more time with Senju Hashirama in front of him, he really couldn't tell which one was Hashirama. Easy and I'm actually going to do it, those are two different things. Why should I waste more time and effort when there is ready-made Uchiha Madara available? What's more, your genes are full of restlessness, even if I create a better Uchiha Madara, I think it will be no different from the current you in terms of personality. If there is, then it is not Uchiha Madara, and it is not a work I am satisfied with. Quote. Maybe it's because he has a long life, or maybe it's because he's lived too long. Even in the face of Uchiha Madara who speaks rudely, Sixian is not impatient at all. This is really thanks for your compliment. The corner of Uchiha Madara's mouth twitched slightly. Yes, this is him. No matter if it is his original product, or a counterfeit product like Senju Hashirama in front of you, as long as it is Uchiha Madara, you will not be content and will not be willing to succumb to the hearts of the people. If you are willing, it is not Uchiha Madara. The last question, you brought me here, what exactly do you want me to do for you? Uchiha Madara crossed her arms and didn't worry about her life at all. People who don't know think that he is the master here. Do the things you dream about, but can't do. Ji Xian stared at Uchiha Madara thoughtfully. Carl, Uchiha Madara's pupils shrank suddenly. Yes, I just want you to kill him. In the Sengoku era, you had the opportunity to do it, but unfortunately you missed it, and now even if you join forces, you can't do it. But it doesn't matter, I can make Yushira go one step further, and also prepare a more powerful ninja god for you. C. Xian said lightly, it is just a trivial matter for him to let the Buddha kill Carl and create a more powerful ninja god and ninja Shira. It seems that you, the so-called master of the ninja world, the man in the sky who planted the sacred tree is not as powerful as you said. Otherwise, you still need to borrow me and this guy's hand to kill Carl. Uchiha Madara sneered. Boom. However, as soon as he laughed, Sixian, who had been floating in midair, had disappeared in place, and appeared in front of him as if teleporting, just with a punch. Susanoo. Uchiha Madara's pupils shrank. Luckily he was driving the Rinnegan when he came in. Facing C. Xian, he could barely see the opponent's attack clearly. But just when his perfect body, Susanoo rose from the ground to protect him, Susanoo, who is known as the god power of the Uchiha clan and possesses the power of a warrior god, was not only smashed to pieces by Sixian's punch, but even in the middle of Susanoo's eyebrows. He was also sent flying 1,000 meters away by C. Xian's tyrannical punch. What kind of gymnastics is this? Besides Carl, could Susanoo have been smashed like this? Even if it's Carl, you'll have to use the arm thrown to do it, right? Uchiha Madara fell into the deep pit thrown out by herself, and just wanted to stand up, but there was a heart-piercing pain from the place where Sixian punched her, and the ground complained that Yu Fangfo was in vain, and she died directly. His body actually couldn't get up 427. Although the two hearts were still functioning normally, after being punched, Dunu was fundamentally damaged, and now it is extremely difficult for him to even stand up. Indigenous, it seems that I am really too kind to you, and I am really too tolerant to you, so that you forgot how to write the words, honor and humble, for a while. Even a kid like Indra, the ancestor of your Uchiha, would not dare to speak rudely in front of me, let alone you, an aborigine with meager blood. Remember, I asked Senju Hashirama to bring you here to do what I ordered, not to make you question me, understand? Sixian slowly landed into the deep pit blasted out by his punch, stepped on Uchiha Madara's head, and looked down at this ninja Shira. Also, ninja Shira, is that all there is? Sometimes, I am really curious, you Uchiha neither inherited Indra's powerful pupil power nor chakra, but why are you more proud than him? Let's take you Uchiha Madara as an example. Even though you have activated Rinnegan, your strength is not as good as Indra. I really don't understand where your pride comes from. Chapter 245 One Punch, One Kick. Part 3 asks for subscription. Kr. Uchiha Madara was filled with horror and anger. This kind of boxing power, such physical skills, he has only seen in one man in the past 100 years. Carl. But Carl only knows physical skills in hockey, so it is natural that physical skills are powerful. But the person in the sky who claimed to be the master of the ninja world and planted the sacred tree in front of him must not be good at physical skills. You obviously have such great strength, why don't you do it yourself? Based on the physical skills you have shown, in my opinion, you are not weaker than Carl. If you use ninjutsu, illusion, or even blood succession, even Carl may not be your opponent. What's more, you still have that fool by your side. Although Uchiha Madara felt extremely humiliated, the crushing gap made him suffer silently. If you repeat it, I don't want to say it again. Remember, you just have to listen to me. I teach you how to do things, not you teach me how to do things. Quote. After Sixian finished speaking, she exerted all her strength with her right foot. Boom. Originally, Uchiha Madara was knocked into the air, and when he landed on the ground, a huge crater with a diameter of more than 100 meters was blasted out. With the force of his right foot, the surging air wave, like a shocking shock wave caused by a missile explosion, instantly shattered the 100-meter-long hole. The big pit turned into a small basin. Uchiha Madara screamed and sank into the deepest part of the ground. With only one Nagato heart left, although he has regained his youth, his strength is far inferior to the state when he stole the heart of Senju Hashirama and gathered the power of the four shadows of the first generation to compete with Carl. Facing the Six Paths class, and even among the Six Paths class, he is extremely tyrannical, he is like a child who has not grown up, facing the existence of the fifth cage level. Mr. C. Xian, enough is enough, let's call here today, and please show mercy. I think Mr. Madara is also a newcomer, so he is a little bit uncomfortable. If you beat him repeatedly, he should learn how to behave. Senju Hashirama arrived at Sixian's side belatedly. I have to say that Sixian's works are indeed very successful. The artificial human Senju Hashirama created by him using the genes of the dead Senju Hashirama as a blueprint not only surpasses the dead dry hand Hashirama in sage body, wood style, sage art, etc., but also inherits Senju Hashirama's character, emotion, memory. Obviously he just met Uchiha Madara for the first time today, but it seems as if he and Uchiha Madara have known each other since the Sengoku era. Hope he really is what you say. Hashirama, take care of him when you have time. If you can't do it, then I will help you do it myself. As the future leader of the Shell organization, who is still above Otsutsuki Kagaya, Sixian obviously will not tolerate the thorns on his head and under his nose like Nagato of the Akatsuki organization. In particular, he had seen most of Uchiha Madara's life in the dark, and knew how rebellious this Shura was. Uchiha's conceit and arrogance are completely multiplied by 10 on the basis of their strength. Yes, Mr. Sixian, I will definitely watch him in the future. Can you get your feet back now? Senju Hashirama was extremely depressed, didn't he watch it? His eyes never left Uchiha Madara. However, facing Uchiha Madara who has a sunny mode anytime and anywhere, he is also very helpless. Open black lens bracket. Si Shion nodded, then raised his right foot. Whether it is the owner of the work, or the high-ranking Otsutsuki, he obviously prefers Senju Hashirama to Uchiha Madara, who is disobedient and dares to stab at the first sight. Single quote. That guy probably guessed that I might still be alive early in the morning, so before the end of life, he kept preventing Senju Tobirama from opening the coffin for an autopsy to confirm my death. Sixian opened his mouth to explain. Something like Earth resentment is too fragile, it cannot bear the power of the four shadows of the first generation, nor can it bear the power of eternal Mangekyo and Rinnegan's pupils. Thinking of this, Uchiha Madara's eyes drooped slightly, even though he knew that the real Senju Hashirama was dead, and what was in front of him was just a copy of Senju Hashirama's memories, emotions, and personality, but he still felt ashamed to face the other party. Seeing that Sixian was finally willing to put his foot down and stop doing anything, Senju Hashirama breathed a sigh of relief, and quickly cast wood style to dig out Uchiha Madara who had been trampled deep into the ground. Senju Hashirama cares so much even if it's just a replica. What about the original? Uchiha Madara looked at the concerned Senju Hashirama in front of him, and couldn't help but think of the image that he dug the dead Hashirama's grave and dug his heart not long ago in order to defeat Karl. But once the ground complains, or there is a problem with the heart, his body will immediately return to an aging state with half a foot in the coffin. If you are still alive, or if you can still be rescued, why don't you squeak 10 times? Compared to Karl, compared to Hashirama, he really doesn't have any bottom line and integrity to speak of. It's just that there is something wrong with the ground. After all, Uchiha Madara's body is already on the verge of death. It is only with the help of the ground and the vortex heart that it can function normally. Madara, you're not dead, are you? Senju Hashirama's expression changed. Mr. Si Shion, Chians, you won't make him dumb, will you? He can't speak. The so-called bottom line can be trampled on when needed. Before he challenged Karl, in addition to not being as strong as that man, Earth resentment Yu's fragile body was also a key reason, otherwise at least he could have fought more excitingly before losing. Just when Senju Hashirama was smoking a cigarette in a hurry, a word came lightly. Chapter 246 It's not a big problem. Madara is used to being the tail of the crane. Part 4 Please subscribe. Anyway, it's a loss, there's nothing to say. What's more, the opponent he lost to was Karl, no shame. He has gotten used to it over the years, so it's not a big problem. Madara is used to being the tail of the crane. Senju Hashirama waved his hand and said something that made Uchiha Madara spit out blood again. Uchiha Madara backed out of Rinnegan, her normal black eyes rolled, staring at Senju Hashirama with a look that was about to kill him alive. It seems that he is not very used to it. Si Shion said lightly. It's okay, when he recovers, I'll beat him a few more times, and he'll get used to it. Anyway, there is no 9 tails now, if I beat him, I can give him more than 1,000 hands. Mr. Sixian, let's help Madara recover first. With his fragile body, even if I join hands with him, I can't beat you. Senju Hashirama didn't care about Guu Zibo Madara's expression as black as the bottom of a pot, and put him on the shoulder with one hand. Si Shion nodded 323. There are nothing more than 2 ways to deal with Uchiha Madara. At first, his plan was to kill Uchiha Madara, dig out Rinnegan, completely squeeze out the power of Indra in his body and transfer it to the body of Senju Hashirama he created. The combination of Indra and Ashura's power, plus the sage body that is closer to Otsutsuki after self-completion, even if it does not become 10 tails Jinchuriki, Senju Hashirama can also enter the 6 paths level, and its strength is only slightly stronger than 6 paths Obito weak. After all, Uchiha Madara's blood is too weak, his physique is too poor, and chakra is too little, so it is difficult to bring Rinnegan's pupil power to ultimate. Similarly, although the Senju Hashirama created by him surpasses the dead Senju Hashirama in all aspects, it is an artificial human created based on the genes of the dead Senju Hashirama. It does not have the power of Indra in its body and cannot open its eyes at all. That's why he wants to kill Uchiha Madara and take Rinnegan, it's the easiest way. But since Senju Hashirama resisted from the bottom of his heart, and proposed that the two of them join forces, and the chances of winning against Karl would be higher than transplanting Rinnegan, he pondered for a moment and agreed to Senju Hashirama's proposal. Don't kill Uchiha Madara, transform him. What do you want to do to me? While being carried by Senju Hashirama along the way, Uchiha Madara recovered from his injury with astonishing speed. After all, Nagato's heart is not a decoration, and at the same time, his body has also been transplanted with the flesh and blood of Senju Hashirama, and his recovery ability is quite good. Although it is impossible to regenerate a broken arm, it can still heal itself, even if the injury does not exceed a certain level. Gives you the power of Indra. I don't know if it's because Sixian doesn't take Uchiha Madara seriously from the bottom of his heart, so he doesn't hate his rudeness, or it's because he just taught Uchiha Madara how to be a human being. Refreshing reason. Facing Uchiha Madara's doubts, he was not stingy in explaining. You kept mentioning Indra just now, who is that? Uchiha Madara couldn't help asking. After being punched and stepped on twice, although he felt extremely humiliated in his heart, after being taught to be a man by Sishion, he also saw the terror of the other party. In his opinion, the person who planted the sacred tree in front of him is no worse than Karl BFDH, and there may even be an existence that is even worse. Especially the character is not as talkative as Senju Hashirama. Unless he really wants to die, he can only put away the sunny mode. Didn't you already find out that you are a descendant of a fairy? Then have you never thought about who is the source of your blood and pupil technique? Sishion said. Isn't it Sage of Six Paths? Uchiha Madara said in a deep voice. Why don't you say the goddess of Mao? Uchiha Madara remembered the name. After all, it is the name of the ancestors, and it is also the son of the Sage of Six Paths. The so-called Sage of Six Paths is, in a sense, the closest to the pure Otsutsuki, but it is not the real Otsutsuki after all. No matter how great it is, it still cannot escape the birth, old age, sickness and death of indigenous and inferior humans in the end. Be it Uchiha Madara or Senju Hashirama, neither of them noticed that when Sishion talked about Sage of Six Paths, his usually calm and indifferent tone, like that of Gujing Hanton, was slightly more turbulent. In his opinion, the ancestors belong to the ancestors, but he doesn't think it is inferior to the ancestors. Indra. Although Indra is his ancestor, he also recognizes this ancestor, but as a common problem of Uchiha, it broke out again at this time. My eyes have evolved into Rinnegan, are they not as powerful as Indra? The absolute difference in strength, and the way Sishion looked at him, such a kind of indifference from the bottom of his heart. Uchiha Madara was annoyed, but dared not speak out. Uchiha Madara regained mobility and said immediately after getting off Senju Hashirama's shoulders. As for Indra, you want to know, it is his son, the source of Sharingan. His words made Uchiha Madara suddenly realize. What is the power of Indra you speak of? When meeting Karl again in the future, it can also be used as capital to pretend. That's not the way you look at people at all, but the way you look at a little ant crawling past your feet. Maybe I won't specifically trample this ant to death, but if this ant dares to rub against my shoe, then needless to say the consequences. Sishion smiled coldly. Chapter 247. Who says today is not as good as the past? Is this the problem of the Indra bloodline becoming weaker and weaker with heredity? The weaker the pupil strength and blood, the more conceited and arrogant the character will be. Even if you are the reincarnation of Indra Chakra, with the thin blood flowing through you, you actually think you are better than the son of the Sage of Six Paths. Sixian glanced at Uchiha Madara, who felt very good about herself, and couldn't help shaking her head. Thousands of years of inheritance, from generation to generation, the bloodline has become extremely weak. Unless Uchiha Madara eats the fruit of the sacred tree, or becomes Ten-Tails Jinchuriki, it is almost impossible to defeat Indra, whose blood is purer and closer to Otsutsuki, with a weak and heterogeneous blood. Who said the present is not as good as the past? Uchiha Madara said confidently. Who said that the present is not as good as the past? This sentence is not bad, and it is completely fine if it is applied to Karl. But if it is used on you, it is really not as good as it used to be. Evolving Rinnegan. Surpassing Indra with pupil power is a different matter. If you want to surpass him, solve your messy blood problem. Sixian glanced at Uchiha Madara, ignoring this self-conscious Uchiha. In his view, Indra and Uchiha are really two products. Over the millennia, the blood left by Indra has become thinner and more heterogeneous, but Indra's self-confidence has evolved with the millennium, and has continued to evolve, so that every Uchiha has a sunny mode. Madara, don't be stubborn, let me tell you something. I heard from Mr. Sixian before that your ancestor Indra did not have any square flower tubes, such as eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Some are just 3 Tomo Sharingan. Senju Hashirama was afraid that Uchiha Madara would disagree and turn on the sunny mode again, and then be taught by Sishion to be a man, so he quickly reminded. 3 Hook Jade. Not even Mangekyo. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Tisk tisk. Is this what you said the present is not as good as the past? Mr. Sishion. Quote. Uchiha Madara looked at Sixian who was walking ahead, and laughed. On the contrary, this is the best proof that today is not as good as it used to be. The Sharingan passed down to the sacred tree is only divided into Guyu, and there is no such thing as Mangekyo or Eternal Mangekyo. Only after Indra's bloodline became more and more heterogeneous with the combination with the natives again and again, because the bloodline was not enough to bear the original pupil power, the Sharingan would degenerate accordingly. Your proud Mangekyo, Eternal Mangekyo is not a Sharingan evolution, but a proof of degeneration. As Sixian said, he stretched out his hand and pushed open the door of a building in front of him. Who would believe that? Uchiha Madara is unbelievable. The eyes that every Uchiha dreams of, even if they kill their loved ones, are proof of the degeneration of the Sharingan. How could he accept such a result? Forgot to tell you, Indra was born as 3 Tomo Sharingan. However, his 3 Tomo Sharingan can be opened directly, the perfect body that can only be opened by the Eternal Mangekyo. You are proud of Susanoo. Most importantly, his Susanoo is more than twice the size of yours. After Sixian finished speaking, Uchiha Madara walked into the building in front of her with a stiff smile on her face. 3 Go You opened the complete body Susanoo, and it was twice as big. Uchiha Madara stood blankly at the door, looking skeptical about life. Madara, don't be so sad. I also understand how you feel. According to people, Indra is also your ancestor, and the son of Sage of Six Paths. Isn't it a matter of course that you are better than you? Senju Hashirama patted Uchiha Madara on the shoulder, and said in relief. You know shit. You are not the one who lost to your ancestors, of course you can say that. Quote. Uchiha Madara took a deep breath. Although he was hit, he was not so sad when he thought that he would soon master the power of Indra. You can't say that. Mr. Sixian said that my ancestor, Ashura, another son of Sage of Six Paths, is also a mess. Look at me, wood style, sage body, and chakra are all so powerful, but you still have to turn on sage mode to cast true several thousand hands, but he is different. I heard that when Ashura was fighting Indra, without using sage art, he was able to activate true several thousand hands in seconds, and also mastered a higher level of power than Uzumaki Kushina's Kurama mode. When referring to his ancestor Ashura, Senju Hashirama showed a very different bearing from Uchiha Madara. There is no dissatisfaction, some are just admiration and admiration. Our ancestors fought. Who won in the end? Ashura or Indra? When Uchiha Madara said this, he already regretted it. Sure enough, Senju Hashirama's next answer made him want to slap his mouth. Aren't you talking nonsense? It's scary enough to turn on true several thousand hands normally, and there is a power over Kurama mode, in addition to truth-seeking ball. Any one of them is doomed to a disastrous defeat for your ancestors, let alone 3. By the way, it is said that the ancestor Ashura seems to be able to use fairy art, and it seems to be the kind that does not have a fairy face, which is different from mine, Mount Myoboku, and Raichi Cave. I think it should be inherited from my own Sage of Six Paths. Senju Hashirama looked at Uchiha Madara like an idiot. Is there any question about the outcome of this battle? The Sage of Six Paths are so partial to Ashura that they have chosen him as their heir. 3 heads and 6 arms 9 tails. Truth-seeking ball. True several thousand hands. Anyone can teach Indra to be a man on the spot. Chapter 248 Artificial Human Uchiha Madara, Part 6 Please subscribe. Humph. Uchiha Madara saw Senju Hashirama's face filled with fascination when he talked about the battle between Indra and Ashura, and first snorted coldly, then followed Shion into a room with a dark face. Didn't you say it well just now? Why did he suddenly have a dark face again? It's not you who was beaten, it's just Indra, why are you so angry? Senju Hashirama looked at Uchiha Madara who entered the room in anger, with a look of bewilderment. How are you going to give me the power of Indra? Uchiha Madara looked at Sixian in front of him. Knowing that the existence of Indra and Ashura is superior to himself and Senju Hashirama, he is also full of deep desire for the power of the ancestors of the 833. Although it is said that Indra lost to Ashura, it is not a big problem. Didn't he also lose to Senju Hashirama? And it's still 2. That's it. After Sixian finished speaking, a Uzumaki-like black hole suddenly appeared in the room. In the next second, a person who looked exactly like Uchiha Madara, but with his eyes tightly closed landed on an operating table in the room. My android. Uchiha Madara's expression turned cold. Not to mention an arrogant and conceited person like him, even if it was an ordinary person who saw someone copying a humanoid with his genes, his expression would not look so good. Especially with the later Senju Hashirama as an example, these copied androids are actually better than the original ones, so I can't be more happy. When encountering this kind of clone, the clone is stronger than the original, and the body is stronger, but the only one who is so happy is White Zetsu Fei. He's better than you in every way except Rinnegan. As long as he cultivates as hard as you did in the Sengoku era, when he grows up, he will be better than you in the same way that second generation Senju Hashirama is better than the first generation. Sixian said in a firm tone. In this case, then you can use him, and you still need to come to me. Uchiha Madara snorted coldly, because his excellence is only relative in terms of blood. In the final analysis, whether he or you are just a native, an inferior human being. Like Ashura, the son of Six Paths, he was born without great power, and he needs to practice hard day after day, study hard year after year, plus a lot of life and death battles, so that Tongli and chakra can bear fruit. It takes too much time and there are too many variables. Since there are ready-made ones, why should I wait for him to grow up? Whether it is directly creating a Uchiha Madara with power, or raising a Uchiha Madara, I have no such intention. Even now, I'm more inclined to kill you and transfer your Rinnegan to my Senju Hashirama. Quote. Sixian's indifferent tone and eyes without the slightest emotion made Uchiha Madara's heart tighten. He knew that the so-called heavenly man in front of him regarded all the humans in the ninja world as natives and inferior humans, so he could definitely kill him and take away his Rinnegan. Mr. Shion, since you've made your decision, it's better not to go back on your word, as that doesn't match your status. Senju Hashirama said suddenly at this moment. I don't know why you help him like that. Don't forget, he just recently dug the first Senju Hashirama's grave in his heart, forget it. Maybe I made you too perfect, even if you surpass the first generation Senju Hashirama in terms of strength and blood, but you have perfectly inherited other things from the first generation Senju Hashirama. Quote. Sixian glanced at Senju Hashirama, and the murderous intent in his eyes slowly dissipated. He is still very satisfied with his favorite work. If conditions permit, he even intends to replace the former Kagaya clone with the Senju Hashirama he created to act as his guardian. Of course, only if Senju Hashirama doesn't disappoint him. Senju Hashirama at this stage is good, but not enough. To be his guardian, such inferior surnames as Senju and Uchiha cannot exist. At least Otsutsuki Hashirama will do. I'm also very helpless. Who told me that you created me, Mr. C. Shion? Senju Hashirama spread his hands. Let's go. C. Shion nodded in disbelief, then glanced at Uchiha Madara, and pointed to the android Madara lying on the operating table. What do you want me to do? Although Uchiha Madara doesn't want to be manipulated at will like a puppet, he has been taught to be a human being since he met Sixian, and his sunny mode has also been suppressed to the bottom. Don't do anything. After Sixian finished speaking, his right hand flashed across Uchiha Madara's eyes like lightning. Puff. Humph. Uchiha Madara snorted, and when she raised her hand again, only the bloody eye sockets remained, and the eyeballs inside were gone. All I want is your eyes, and your 5.6 spiritual reign. As for your body with mixed blood, or that ugly earth grievance is not what I need. Of course, your chakra is also good. After all, it is Indra's century-old accumulation of reincarnation. If you transfer all of it, it will help you complete the integration of body and soul faster, and quickly transform the potential of this body into strength. After snapping off Uchiha Madara's eyeballs with a single gesture, Sixian walked to the operating table, and directly inserted a pair of eyeballs that combined Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and Rinnegan into the cyborg Madara he had created. In the eye socket. Chapter 249 Otsutsuki Hashirama, Part 1. Please subscribe. Mr. Sixian, is Madara okay? He is not Otsutsuki after all, and much less you, a being who can transcend death. You can use the wedge to revive with impunity, but he can't. Senju Hashirama glanced at Uchiha Madara, who was sprawled on the ground, with lines of resentment extending from all over his body, but he was breathless, and then shifted his gaze to the artificial Madara on the operating table. Just now, Sixian cut out Uchiha Madara's Rinnegan and installed it in the eyes of the artificial man Madara, and then began the reincarnation and resurrection similar to Otsutsuki, wedge. This is Sixian, or Otsutsuki, who resides in Sixian's body, has developed a trap similar to the living corpse reincarnation that can directly capture the human body based on the wedge over the years. It's not forbidden technique though, it's yin-yang done, and it's not the same as Orochimaru's living corpse reincarnation. Once the 15th reincarnation is successful, after the combination of body, soul and chakra, there will be no rejection, let alone damage to the soul during the reincarnation process. This is also what Senju Hashirama said before bringing Uchiha Madara here. It can solve the aging body, truly restore youth, and even improve blood vessels in all aspects. Keep Rinnegan, Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, chakra, and the soul, and discard all others, and then transfer the eyes, chakra, and soul to the artificial human created by Sixian based on the gene of Uchiha Madara, combined with the sacred tree chakra, and its own chakra. Just like the Sage of Six Paths created by Kagaya after eating the fruit of the sacred tree, Insutsuki Yumura. Of course, the Six Paths brothers created by Kagaya are many times higher than the artificial man Senju Hashirama and the artificial man Madara in terms of blood, chakra, and strength. After all, putting aside the combat experience, consciousness, and control and use of his own power, Kagaya-ji is Otsutsuki who ate a complete fruit of the sacred tree, and when he created the Six Paths brothers, he also made a lot of money. A large amount of pupil power and chakra are separated from itself. Unlike Sixian, whether it is the creation of the artificial man Senju Hashirama or the creation of the artificial man Madara, it is done on the basis of not losing much of its own strength. There is naturally a huge gap between the two. The artificial human Madara is different from you. I have wiped out the soul at the beginning of creation, leaving only an optimized and purified body with pure blood that is infinitely close to Indra. The most important thing is that this cyborg Madara has never done any cultivation. Although the blood is pure, it has no power, and even chakra has not been refined. With Uchiha Madara's soul, chakra, and pupil power, combined with such a body, there is no risk at all, and there is no need to experience any confrontation at the soul level. C. Shion leaned against the door lightly, without any fluctuation on his face. Not to mention that in his opinion, this is a sure thing, even if there is an accident, so what? Isn't this better? Just pick out Uchiha Madara's eyes, extract chakra, and gather them all on Senju Hashirama. In this way, Senju Hashirama will become stronger than ever. At that time, it should not be called Senju Hashirama, but Otsutsuki Hashirama. He wants a Otsutsuki Hashirama more than an android Uchiha Madara. As that's so, Senju Hashirama felt relieved when he heard the words. He knew that although C. Shion regarded the humans in the ninja world as natives and inferior humans, he was quite generous and disdained to lie. If so, it must be true. Almost. Sixian glanced at the artificial man Madara, and as soon as the words fell, lying on the operating table, the artificial man Madara, whose eyes had been closed all the time, opened them suddenly. First came the iconic black pupils of the Uchiha clan, followed by a flash of scarlet light, and one after another black jade emerged from the pupils. When the Sharingan turned into 3 hooked jades, they were suddenly connected in a line and became Mangekyo Sharingan. After that, the black hooked jade pattern became more complicated, and on the original basis, there was an additional hooked jade pattern belonging to Uchiha Izuna. When the two overlap, the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan reappears. Not only that, but with the appearance of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and its continuous rotation, a sublime breath began to emerge. When the bright purple light burst out, circles of fluctuations emerged. When Uchiha Madara saw Senju Hashirama's concerned face, he was about to speak, but his eyes felt an unprecedented sting, which was more painful than the first time Mangekyo Sharingan 843 used Susanoo. His eyes, how are they deteriorating? Where is the good thing? With bloody tears oozing from the corners of his eyes, his Rinnegan transforms back into eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, then degenerates into Mangekyo Sharingan, and finally turns back into Sharingan. Look in his eyes. As determined as he was, he couldn't help but cover his eyes, and directly half-kneeled on the operating table and let out a tragic wail. Senju Hashirama turned his head to see Uchiha Madara's eyes widen suddenly. Senju Hashirama ran over quickly. Mr. C. Shion, what is going on? How is this going? Rinnegan replaces the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Madara, how are you feeling? Senju Hashirama couldn't help asking when he saw Uchiha Madara screaming. C. Shion stared straight into Uchiha Madara's eyes. C. Shion stepped forward and took a look at Uchiha Madara. Those seemingly sparse eyes saw deep changes that even Rinnegan couldn't see. Good thing. It's not in vain for me to transfer his chakra into this new body along with his soul. Senju Hashirama can only turn to Sixian for help. Me. Chapter 253 Guyu Rinnegan Part 2 Request Subscription. Degeneration. No, it's called evolution. Whether it is Mangekyo or Eternal Mangekyo, they are just products of mixed blood, unable to withstand the original powerful pupil power of Sharingan, and thus continuously degenerate. The eyes are now the true form of the Sharingan from Ten Tails. Quote. C. Shion shook his head. No, Mr. Sixian, look. Senju Hashirama never took his eyes off Uchiha Madara. That's why, when Uchiha Madara's eyes changed, he noticed it for the first time. Sixian didn't care much about Uchiha Madara at first, but when he heard Senju Hashirama's hasty exclamation, he couldn't help turning his head to look. Interesting. Did this guy steal the power of Ashura from you? Now that his bloodline has evolved to a level no less than that of Indra, it is enough to carry stronger pupil power, so the shape of the eyes is also closer to Ten Tails. Under the gaze of C. Shion and Senju Hashirama, Uchiha Madara's blood-red three-tomo Sharingan suddenly rippled in circles, and at the same time, the scarlet light in his eyes also turned into a noble aura of purple mons. Rinnegan appeared again, but this time, the appearance of Rinnegan was not the transformation of three-tomo Sharingan into Rinnegan, but on the basis of maintaining Rinnegan, the three hook jades fell on the circles of fluctuations in the eyes. Sengoku Rinnegan. As the bloodline approaches Indra infinitely, Uchiha Madara's Sharingan not only evolves from the posture of eternal Mangekyo Sharingan to Indra's three-tomo Sharingan, but also merges with Rinnegan on the basis of maintaining Sharingan. In the end, it turned into a pair of three-tomo Sharingan, which shone with bewitching purple ons, and Guyu continued to rotate along the circles of fluctuations. This can be regarded as a surprise. After taking a panoramic view of the changes in Uchiha Madara's eyes, Sixian's expressionless face also showed a hint of a smile. He didn't care much about Uchiha Madara at first, but after Uchiha Madara opened the three-god Jade Rinnegan, his view changed. Not to mention paying attention, but it is no longer as dispensable as before. What a powerful pupil power. Artificial human Senju Hashirama's eyes flashed a touch of solemnity. Before, he was able to handle Uchiha Madara who had activated Rinnegan, but now, facing Uchiha Madara of Sengoku Rinnegan, for the first time, he felt a kind of evenly matched oppression. It was also this feeling that let him know that Uchiha Madara had already stood at the same level as him. This body is really not bad. Much better than the one I had before. Quote. Uchiha Madara jumped off the operating table suddenly. He first touched his new body, and then gently touched his eyes with his right hand, feeling the evil and noble power of his eyes constantly surging out. The majestic chakra in his body, the corners of his mouth gradually raised a curve. Madara, what do you think? Senju Hashirama saw that Uchiha Madara was completely awake, and hurriedly stepped forward to ask. How about it? Of course it's unprecedented, okay. Hashirama, now I'm not necessarily worse than you. Quote. Maybe he also returned a corpse. Except for the soul, chakra, and eyes, everything else is artificial like the Senju Hashirama in front of him. Uchiha Madara no longer calls Senju Hashirama a counterfeit. Perhaps, deep down in his heart, he has already regarded the artificial Senju Hashirama in front of him as the real Senju Hashirama. Indeed, Senju Hashirama candidly admits how powerful Uchiha Madara is now. These eyes, not bad. However, just when Uchiha Madara was overjoyed by the soaring pupil power, chakra, and the recognition of the artificial man Senju Hashirama, the voice of Sixian suddenly came, like a basin of cold water pouring on his head, directly pouring into his heart. His ecstasy was quenched. Just not bad. Uchiha Madara glanced at Sixian, and three-tomo Sharingan showed a hint of eagerness. Want to fight with me? A sneer flashed in the depths of Sixian's eyes. Sure enough, Uchiha's tradition, even with the body he created, is still perfectly inherited. Quote. Why not? The unruly look on Uchiha Madara's face became more and more intense. The power of the pupils soars, the eyes evolve, the Sharingan and the Rinnegan merge with each other, and after turning into the three-god Jade Rinnegan, after being fattened by C. Shion, the sunny Madara mode that has been suppressed to the bottom of my heart is turned on again. You should also really want to know how much your hard work has achieved, don't you? Uchiha Madara stared at Sixian. Since you know that everything about you is bestowed by me, then you should be very clear about the gap between you and me. C. Shion said. Don't get me wrong, this power is not given by you. Uchiha Madara felt that changing the body that Sixian had prepared for him was just an inducement. No money. The birth of Sengoku Rinnegan, in his opinion, was the result of his own hard conditions and hard work. If he hadn't already activated Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and Rinnegan, so what if he changed to a body whose bloodlines were as pure as Indra's? Even Indra can't open the three-hook Jade Rinnegan, how can it be opened if it's no less than Indra's body? Madara. Cyborg Senju Hashirama frowned. He didn't expect that as soon as Uchiha Madara's eyes evolved, he immediately felt that he was fine again. How? Are you scared? Don't you want to experience for yourself the power of pupils surpassing the ancestor Indra? How strong is it? Uchiha Madara ignored Senju Hashirama, but beckoned to Sixian arrogantly. Chapter 251 Now I have surpassed my ancestor Indra. Part 3 Please subscribe. Interesting. But you also have a point. I am indeed a little interested in your eyes. Quote. Faced with Uchiha Madara's provocation, Sixian was not angry at all. He has long been aware of the white-eyed wolf character of the Uchiha clan. Although he didn't expect that Uchiha Madara would activate the three-god Jade Rinnegan, but he was mentally prepared. Once Uchiha Madara changed his body and felt that his strength had skyrocketed, he would immediately feel that he was able to do it again. Since he had already expected it, he would naturally not be surprised, let alone get angry. I'm interested in you, too. After Uchiha Madara finished speaking, he was about to start. Don't ruin my place. A black hole-like spatial passage appeared behind Shion, and then turned around and walked in. This kind of power again. Uchiha Madara's pupils shrank. Time and space pupil technique, and it is still a space of its own, even now he does not have such pupil technique. But so what? Now my pupil power has surpassed that of my ancestor Indra. Quote. Uchiha Madara took a deep breath, and walked into the space passage without the slightest fear. Hey, the cyborg Senju Hashirama could not persuade Uchiha Madara, so he could only follow 070. At this moment, he only hoped that Sixian could refrain from his supernatural powers, so that he wouldn't accidentally kill Uchiha Madara. That's right, even if Uchiha Madara's eyes evolved again and his pupil power surpassed that of his ancestor Indra, he still didn't think that Uchiha Madara had any chance of winning against Sixian. Not only because everything about Uchiha Madara is bestowed by Sixian, but more importantly, he has never seen Sixian in full bloom so far. Is this your space? After passing through the black hole, Uchiha Madara looked at the world with lakes, rolling mountains, and vast plains in front of him. He even thought he was in the ninja world. Do it, natives. I hope you can bring me a little bit of surprise this time, instead of being unable to withstand a punch like before. Shion stared at Uchiha Madara expressionlessly. Then you can take it. Uchiha Madara thought of the humiliating scene of Susanoo being smashed by Sixian's blow and stepping on her head with one foot, and Sengoku Rinnegan suddenly BFCE, burst into frightening pupil power. Not seeing any movement from him, the man has already rolled up a majestic wave of air, like a missile being shot out, rushed to Shion in an instant, and punched him. It's much faster. Sixian's eyes didn't fluctuate at all, and he raised his right hand slightly to hold Uchiha Madara's fist. Boom. The moment the fists and palms of the two collided, a powerful storm instantly tore through the ground, rolling up flying sand and rocks. However, if you fight against me, you are still far behind. Sixian's faint voice sounded, the palm has been pulled back, and the knee has been bumped into Uchiha Madara's abdomen with a light lift. Shenluo Tianzhong. Uchiha Madara's three-hook Jade Rinnegan burst out with terrifying pupil power, centering on the body, a repulsive force that spread over 10 kilometers blasted out. With his chakra and pupil power at this time, Nagato needs to burn his lifespan, and he has prepared for a long time for the super Shenluo Tianzhong, but he can display it with just a few gestures. However, Sixian's knee bump directly broke through the repulsive force of the raging sea and directly sank into Uchiha Madara's abdomen. Even with the repulsion counteracting, Uchiha Madara raised his hand to block, but was still hit by knee and flew hundreds of meters away. This guy's physical skills are too strong. I guess the only one who can compete with him is Carl, that B****************. D. Uchiha Madara has a sore right hand. It was just a face-to-face physical combat, and he knew that even if the three-hook Jade Rinnegan was turned on, he was still not qualified to engage in physical combat with Sixian. To compete with Sixian in physical combat, unless the power of the eyes and pupils is further evolved into Lugoyu Rinnegan, then it is possible to fight with Sixian in physical combat. How? Where did you provoke me just now? Doesn't that work? Shion imitated Uchiha Madara's action just now, and beckoned to Zebo Madara in a neutral manner. Don't underestimate the power of Uchiha. Uchiha Madara's 3 Gugama Rinnegan is even colder. After realizing that physical skills are not enough to compete with Sixian, he no longer uses physical skills, but uses pupil skills. After all, although he has no shortcomings, it is only compared to the contemporary 5 shadows. In fact, his strongest is the pupil technique. Other ninjutsu, body art, illusion, swordsmanship and so on are all for the purpose of cooperating with the pupil technique, in order to make better use of the pupil technique. Boom. Between thoughts, Uchiha's god of destruction reappeared. The power of the blue chakra and tong came out, and a huge skeleton rose from the ground. From the beginning tens of meters high, break through all the way up. 100 meters, 300 meters, an existence of the same era as the goddess Uno. 1000 meters, 700 meters, a monster who created his android Senju Hashirama. It is so big and huge that it can touch the top of this space with its head, so it is indeed very powerful. But so what? In the end, the size of the skeleton titan was fixed at a height of 1000 meters. 500 meters. A celestial being who planted a divine tree. Kilometer full body Susanoo. Even Indra in his prime was not as powerful as Uchiha Madara is now. The opponent is Sixian. Immediately afterwards, chakras, flesh, meridians, and armor emerged one after another, covering Susanoo's body. After the bloodline goes further, with more powerful pupil power and chakra, will Susanoo become even bigger. In an instant, 1,000-meter high, complete body Susanoo just stood on the ground, and its majesty would blow away the clouds above this space. Senju Hashirama, who was watching from the sidelines, brightened his eyes, but immediately returned to his original appearance. Chapter 252 Sixian, Susanoo. Not bad. Part 4. Please subscribe. Finally, it looks pretty good. There was a wave of fluctuation in Sixian's eyes, but it disappeared immediately. KM Susanoo. It is indeed big. It can be called the second in the millennium of the ninja world. But that's all. Compared with the man who is not a pure-blood Otsutsuki, but catches up to a pure-blood Otsutsuki, it is not a star and a half. And the man who is completely out of his control and holds the power of chakra's power. I have seen the demeanor of the Sage of Six Paths brothers thousands of years ago, and I have also witnessed the power of Karl thousands of years later. Even the current Uchiha Madara, in his opinion, is just like that. Are you ready? It's just that the current Uchiha Madara doesn't know. At this time, with the pupil power of Sengoku Rinnegan, combined with the new body, and the huge chakra that has stolen the power of Hashirama, which is far beyond the past, after driving 1,000 meters Susanoo, he is completely immersed in his own powerful power. The second round has begun. Uchiha Madara crossed her arms and looked down at Shion condescendingly. Immediately after, Susanoo pulled out the nearly kilometer-long chakra sword and chopped it down. Before the knife fell, the shadow that covered the sky and the impact of a huge tide had already fallen from the sky, completely submerging the area around Sixian. It's the second round, but it's also the last answer. Shion obviously didn't have the idea of playing with a defeated general, and a defeated subordinate created by himself. When he faced Susanoo's chakra sword that covered the sky, he didn't dodge or dodge, and flew up directly, like an angry dragon soaring into the sky, and punched Susanoo's chakra sword. Click. There was no evenly matched force as expected by Uchiha Madara, let alone the collision of knives and fists as he expected. There was only a loud noise and strong wind that roared for several kilometers. The chakra sword in Susanoo's hand was crushed. Sixian, which was more than hundreds of times stronger, was shattered with a single punch. This is fake. Uchiha Madara saw this scene, and 3 Tomo Sharingan almost stared out of his eyes. The Susanoo opened in the Rinnegan state can be crushed with one punch. Why is Susanoo's chakra broadsword smashed by a single punch before his chakra and Tongli are better than before? This unreal picture once caused his brain to pause for a moment. Before he started, he had fantasized about the battle with Sixian. Some were evenly matched, some were at a disadvantage, and some had the upper hand, but he didn't get crushed by one punch like now Susanoo. Susanoo. Not bad. After Sixian shattered Susanoo's nearly 1,000-meter chakra sword, he commented leisurely. Not bad. Just not bad. What are you kidding? What do you think of me, Uchiha Madara? Uchiha Madara heard the familiar words uttered by Sixian, and reflexively thought of the situation when he faced Karl when he first opened Susanoo. At that time, he started the first battle between Susanoo and Karl, but he was kicked to pieces by Karl. The evaluation I got was Susanoo, not bad. Now that the 3-hook jade is activated, Rinnegan faces Sixian. Although Susanoo is not crushed, Chakra's sword is crushed. The same words and the same tone made the eyes of Uchiha Madara, who had experienced several fiascos and blows in one day, a terrifying look. Don't read people all over. Under Uchiha Madara's stern growl, Susanoo began to seal. 9 meteorites covering the sky and the sun suddenly appeared from the sky above this space, and then fell towards Sixian at an extremely fast speed. Ask for flowers. It's not over yet. Without waiting for Shion to make a move, Susanoo, who is 1,000 meters tall, made another seal. Susanoo Tengai Shinsei. The surface of the meteorite, which was originally as big as an island, rose into hot flames, and not only fell faster, but also turned into 9 burning meteorites. What a massive meteor shower. This guy Madara is really not bad. Now his strength is really no worse than mine. Quote. Senju Hashirama stood up abruptly, his eyes showing a deep and dignified color. Such a technique, even he has to go all out to resist it. At least, wooden golem, wooden dragon, and arrival of the tree realm in normal state can't stop them, and you must turn on sage mode to resist them. Although this is my space, it doesn't matter how you mess around, but making a mess of my space is not what a subordinate should do. However, in the face of such a huge flame meteor shower, Shion's face, which was about the size of an ordinary person and looked like an ant in front of the meteor shower, was as calm as water from the beginning to the end. No matter whether Uchiha Madara shows the 1,000-meter Susanoo, or the flame meteor rain that destroys the space with his gestures, he still can't make him change color in the slightest. I am not your subordinate. Don't think that giving me a new body makes me your subordinate. I'm not Hashirama that fool will fiddle with you. Quote. Uchiha Madara sneered upon hearing this. You will. Seeing Uchiha Madara in sunny mode, Sixian said something firmly, and then under the gaze of Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama, which gradually became terrifying, black marks appeared from all over the body. Chapter 253 Why do you think I'm serious? The 5th update asks for subscription. What is this? Senju Hashirama's eyes widened. The change of Sixian made him feel trembling. The change in chakra. Too obvious. Under normal circumstances, although his perception is not as good as Senju Tobirama, it also surpasses most perception ninjas in the ninja world. Even if he doesn't enter sage mode, he can clearly feel how terrifying the kind-hearted chakra is at this moment. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is the most in history. At least he has never seen such a huge chakra on anyone. Not only by, but also the quality is terrifying. Has this guy never been serious before? Uchiha Madara's pupils constricted for a while. Sengoku Rinnegan looked at 447 and entered the wedge. After the state 1, the strings of Sixian involuntarily showed a trace of substantive horror. Look at your words. Why do you think I'm serious now? Sixian raised his head. Obviously the difference in size made him look up at Uchiha Madara, but when his gaze fell on Uchiha Madara, it made this ninja Shira feel contemptuous. It is a kind of eyes that humans only show when they look down at the ants crawling by their feet, or the little bugs flying in front of them. Isn't he the strongest at this time? Whether Uchiha Madara or Senju Hashirama, they were all stunned. Just when they were all shocked by Sishian's words and the opponent's chakra at this time, Sishian, who was standing on the ground, had already soared into the sky, met the first flaming meteorite falling from the sky, and smashed it to pieces with a punch. Bang! After a loud noise that shook the space came out, accompanied by the fiery red light that illuminated the entire space, the flame meteorite that had recently come into contact with Sixian had exploded and shattered into countless small, flame-tainted rubble. Just one punch. Uchiha Madara used the three-god Jade Rinnegan to cast a 1,000-meter perfect body. The Tengai Shinsei released by Susanoo was shattered. Just when Uchiha Madara couldn't help being horrified by Sixian's body skills, Sixian, who had crushed a flame meteorite, had already flashed and landed in front of the second flame meteorite. This time it's not a punch, but a kick. Boom. There was a loud noise, and the huge meteorite exploded in the sky like fireworks. Another kick. Horror had gradually taken over Uchiha Madara's face. Even after fighting until now, he is still unscathed, but he has already noticed the gap between the two sides. With such strength, even if he joins hands with Senju Hashirama, he may not be able to fight, not to mention that Sixian has clearly shown that this is not his strongest posture. Bang bang bang. Sixian didn't care that Uchiha Madara's inner horror became stronger. He hadn't moved his body for a long time, let alone enter the wedge. He seemed to be in the first state, and he seemed to be interested in doing something. Facing this flaming meteor rain that could destroy a country, he didn't have any pupil techniques, illusion techniques, or ninjutsu, and only used physical techniques to deal with it. 4 fists, 5 feet. A total of 9 attacks. Every shot or kick will inevitably blow up a meteorite. After 9 attacks, Sixian suspended in the sky stopped, but the meteorite rain had disappeared. In the sky of the entire space, there are only smoke and dust covering the sky, clouds dyed red by the flames, and countless gravel rain falling down like fireworks. At this time, against such a breathtaking background, Sixian is like a god on high. Just like his self-introduction, above heaven. For people in the ninja world, he is a god. Beyond death, possesses power beyond the scope of human beings. There is no need to practice, no need to study, just plant trees and eat fruits to continue to grow. Are you still playing? Sixian hovered in the sky higher than Susanoo, and her arrogant eyes fell on Uchiha Madara, who was in the middle of Susanoo's brow. Play. Upon hearing this, Uchiha Madara's eyes burst out with compassion. Fangfo felt his anger, and Susanoo moved immediately. I saw Susanoo holding Yasaka's Guyu in his left hand and the chakra sword in his right hand, and then attacked Sixian. It seems that you still want to continue, but I don't want to play anymore. The plain voice fell, and Sixian had disappeared in midair. Seeing this scene, Senju Hashirama was stunned. Even if he wants to break this Shiyu Zebo Madara's Susanoo, he has to do his best to do it. At this time, Susanoo, which stood tall and was bigger than the mountain, was covered with shocking cracks, and looked like a piece of porcelain that was about to break. Uchiha Madara looked left and right, but couldn't find Sixian at all. This kind of picture, he has only seen on a man. What about Sixian? Uchiha's strongest divine power can be completely ravaged, trampled, rounded and flattened by Susanoo in such a way, and he can do it completely with bare hands. Looking at the ninja world, he has only done it in Karl. Sixian, who had disappeared before, appeared in front of him out of nowhere, with his right hand open, his palm, which was obviously only the size of a normal person, patted Susanoo's forehead like a hill. Click. But now, Ji Xian, who created his android Senju Hashirama, has done it too. Starting from the forehead touched by Si Xian's palm, a series of 1,000-meter-long cracks covered Susanoo's whole body in an instant. With bare hands, with one slap, Susanoo was cracked, and it was about to shatter. As Susanoo such a crisp 4.2. It's not only the big ones who are strong, sometimes the small ones are stronger. A voice suddenly sounded in Uchiha Madara's ear, and then he saw a scene he will never forget. Ninja Heroes. Where? Tekken Karl. Chapter 254. Can you be strong without shattering the complete body Suzuo? Please subscribe to the 6th update. When did the divine power that Uchiha is so proud of have been reduced to the point where anyone can fiddle with it at will and smash it with one punch? Uchiha Madara looked at Susanoo, who was covered with shocking cracks all over her body. Her cold and arrogant face was full of anger. This is anger at one's own weakness. In the past, Karl was the only person in the ninja world who could manipulate and ravage Susanoo at will, and he couldn't accept it anymore. Now there is a kindness string. Even if the opponent is a person in the sky, he can't accept that Uchiha's proud strength is so humiliated. Within a day, he encountered two people who rounded and flattened the complete body of Susanoo, which gave him an idea that he thought was extremely absurd. That is the top existence in the ninja world, all of them regard Susanoo as a decoration, an existence of decoration. In fact it is. But all the strong ones in the Six Paths class basically rarely use Susanoo. Whether it is taking drugs or improving cultivation, this is the case with 19 exceptions. This is the case for Kage Ahime, who ate the fruit of the sacred tree and mastered the reincarnation Sharingan, as well as the Sixian in front of him, and the Otsutsuki Momoshiki, Otsutsuki Jinshiki, and Otsutsuki Arashiki who came to the ninja world in the future without exception. Isn't Susanoo strong? No. Very strong. Raise your hand and throw your feet, cut mountains, break seas, and tear apart the sky. But this is strong, that is compared to people in the ninja world. Except for the Susanoo of the Sage of Six Paths, which is comparable to a full-body 10 tails, I don't know how many kilometers, or even tens of thousands of meters. Paths-level powerhouses are just decorations, which is too cumbersome. Take Shion in front of him as an example, the size of an ordinary person, but his strength is even more terrifying than the perfect Susanoo, so what's the use of Susanoo? You seem to be having a hard time accepting this fact. Breaking a Susanoo, isn't it a matter of course? Carl can do it, why can't I? Sixian suddenly showed a little playfulness. Uchiha Madara's change of expression now fell into his eyes, which made him quite amusing. It seems that Uchiha has an inexplicable pride in his eyes and in his own Susanoo. But in his opinion, breaking Susanoo was a matter of course. After all, without smashing one or two full-body Susanoo, can it be done? To tell you something, it's not that Susanoo is useless, it's just that your Susanoo is useless. After Sixian finished speaking, her right hand that was holding Susanoo's forehead sank. Susanoo, whose body was covered with numerous cracks, was already like a crumbling camel, but with his right hand lightly exerting force, it suddenly became the last straw that crushed the camel, no, crushed Susanoo. Clang. With a height of 1,000 meters and a body several times that of a tailed beast, Susanoo towered over the ground and shattered. Although Uchiha Madara in midair floated directly in the air by using the pupil technique of Sengoku Rinnegan, his body couldn't help trembling slightly. The gap. Too big. Shion in front of him enters the wedge. After the first state, every gesture will crush him in all directions, regardless of speed and strength. And it's not the normal him, but the one with Susanoo on. Facing such an opponent, it is impossible to fight alone. All-round absolute crushing makes all means useless. All the illusion techniques, pupil techniques, ninjutsu, and body techniques he mastered became pale and powerless in front of Shion. Ninjutsu. The opponent is the person who planted the sacred tree. As long as the ninjutsu can be absorbed by Rinnegan, it is basically impossible to work on Sixian, even if Sixian does not show Rinnegan. Illusion. Forget it, everyone else has planted the sacred tree, so it is impossible to be afraid of Sengoku Rinnegan's illusion. Physique. He was instantly defeated. Finally, there is pupil surgery. Susanoo Tengai Shinsei, one punch, one kick. Rinnegan's 1,000-meter Susanoo can handle tailed beasts like playthings and crush them with one palm. Although he still has wheel tombs, as his pupil power improves, he has more wheel tombs, but, does it work? At this moment, Uchiha Madara couldn't help asking himself involuntarily. Uchiha Madara. After all, this is Sixian. The 6 update is completed, please subscribe and support, I am very grateful. I am very grateful. Obedient, you live, disobedient, kill you, eyes shifted to Hashirama, all problems are solved. In the final analysis, although Uchiha Madara's pupil power is unprecedentedly strong at this time, and has obtained 070 pupil power surpassing Indra, it is not 10 tails Jinchuriki 6 paths Madara after all. This is still Wedge. Sixian in State 1, not to mention State 2, and even the Otsutsuki form in the peak period after reincarnation. Sixian put one finger on Uchiha Madara's forehead. Think too much. Choose. To die, or to be my subordinate. He can make the Shira of the 3-god Jade Rinnegan, and he can also crush it with a backhand. Although your eye evolution is indeed a bit unexpected, but that's it, don't take yourself too seriously. Uchiha Madara. Don't think that if you have opened the 3-god Jade Rinnegan, it is of great value to me. Ninja Shira, an existence that led Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke, who received the power gift of Sage of Six Paths and practiced for more than 10 years, have suffered so much together and are completely invincible. It's just an inferior race that has obtained part of the power of Otsutsuki, but it can dominate other races in the ninja world, but still want to stand up in front of the real Otsutsuki. Even Six Paths Madara is no match for Shion, let alone the current him. After Sixian had a panoramic view of the changes in Uchiha Madara's expression, a smile flashed in the depths of his eyes. So what? Chapter 255 HMPH, it's just the gravel of Six Paths in case Part 1 please subscribe. Obviously Uchiha Madara was unscathed, only Susanoo was shattered, he could continue to fight, but now when facing Sixian, he was suspended in midair motionless. He suffered 3 disastrous defeats in one day, and 2 of them were defeated by the same person one after another. To him, this was not an ordinary blow. Especially in the past, he thought he was the top of the ninja world, but turned out to be the tail of the crane. Now, with the emergence of Shion and the artificial man Senju Hashirama, there are more and more top players, but his status has not changed, and he is still the tail of the crane. Madara, calm down. Whether you are good or me, the chakra of all of us comes from a sacred tree planted by Mr. Sishuan. Isn't it natural to lose to him? A large tree rose from the ground and quickly grew to the height at which the Uchiha Madara floated. Cyborg Senju Hashirama stands on a tree with one arm on Uchiha Madara's shoulder. Uchiha Madara didn't speak, just bowed his head. I don't know if he acquiesced to Senju Hashirama's words, he fell slowly from the sky. This is the last time. Si Xian withdrew her fingers. He knew that Ninja Shira's character would not completely bow his head and submit to him. But so what? Just chess pieces. Just do what he orders. After completing his order, whether to live or die is all in his mind. Uchiha Madara still didn't speak. It's just that the blow is too big, or it's too difficult for his character to say soft words. However, Sixian is too strong, and he can only respond with silence. A week. You guys have a week to grind. The power of Indra and Ashura can only explode beyond the limit when combined. Hashirama, you chose him to survive, so what you have to do is not only to be optimistic about him, but also to do what you should do, otherwise. I will let you act in my way. Sixian ignored Uchiha Madara, who had an ugly face but said nothing, but gave orders to Senju Hashirama. Yes, Mr. Sixian. Cyborg Senju Hashirama was shocked when he heard this. He naturally knew what Si Xian meant. For Uchiha Madara, Sixian obviously hated or looked down on him, but with his hard work, he still gave him a chance. But if the action against Karl fails, Uchiha Madara must die. Based on his understanding of Si Xian, he knew very well that Bayuzibo Madara was worthless once he lost the battle. At that time, Sixian will change the opportunity, no longer let Uchiha Madara join forces with him, but pass everything that belongs to Uchiha Madara to him alone. Uchiha Madara on the side listened to the conversation between the two, and gradually clenched his hands into fists. When has he, Uchiha Madara, been reduced to the point where he is called in and out? What about the people in heaven? This is no reason to look down on him, Uchiha Madara. Mr. Sixian, we will not let you down. We will definitely complete the tasks you entrust. It's just that after the task is completed, I still hope that Mr. Sixian can keep his promise and let Madara continue to live. Quote. Senju Hashirama Fangfo sensed the unwillingness and humiliation in Uchiha Madara's heart, put his hand on his shoulder calmly, and assured Sixian at the same time. If you can complete the task, it proves that he has the value of existence. Since he is a valuable person, I will naturally not dispose of it. But, you understand, I have given you the opportunity, and there is only one time. After Sixian finished speaking, he waved his right hand. Sheila, Mr. Sixian's endurance is limited. Although he values me, he only values me. Don't overestimate the importance he attaches to me, and don't overestimate his tolerance for you and me. Although this is his space, his eyes seem to be able to penetrate this space and see that chakra floating around in the ninja world. Senju Hashirama nodded, and then without giving Uchiha Madara a chance to speak, he directly dragged him into the space passage. On the other side, the two people who passed through the space channel not only left the space of Si Xian, but also left the Kingdom of Wind, and landed directly on the border of the Kingdom of Fire. Senju Hashirama saw that Uchiha Madara had suffered so much and wanted to quit the sunny mode completely. While feeling a headache in his heart, he had to put on a cold face, and said in an unprecedented solemn tone. Madara, you'd better not have such dangerous thoughts. After the two disappeared and the space channel dispersed, Si Xian slowly raised his head to look at the sky. But if we join forces, it will be different. Uchiha Madara. Well, not enough grit for 6 paths. After confirming that Sixian was not here, Senju Hashirama just wanted to speak, but he never thought that Uchiha Madara would suddenly say quietly. Going it alone, neither I nor Madara can be Karl's opponent. Madara, twice. This is definitely the limit of his tolerance for you, and the third time, even if you show your worth, he will deal with you without hesitation. Mr. Sixian, you can rest assured. Hashirama, don't you think that the people who are above you and me, have more Miao Qianshu words? A black hole-like space channel immediately appeared in front of the two of them. Otsutsuki Yuya, let me see what you did before you died. Chapter 256 I Lost Memories and Emotions About Karl, Part 2 Please subscribe. Hashirama, you are the god of ninjas. Are you willing to succumb to others for the rest of your life? In the past, although you and I often lost to Karl, we also gave up the idea of challenging him, let alone bowing our heads to him. Quote. Uchiha Madara glared at the android Senju Hashirama. After a short time together, he already has a deep understanding of the android Senju Hashirama. Although it is an artificial human, it is exactly the same as the Senju Hashirama in his memory, except that it is more powerful, there is almost no difference. Inherited Senju Hashirama's character, memory, emotion, and art. It is also true that after he came out from Sixian, he knew that the artificial man Senju Hashirama was created by Sixian, and he still dared to say such bold words. Hashirama, as long as you join hands with me, any person in the sky will be trampled into the mud, even the sacred tree is in your pocket. Now, you can also see that the ninja village era you insisted on was wrong, and it was also destroyed by Karl. This also indirectly proves that the idea I insisted on at 897 was correct. If you had adopted my proposal and wiped out all other countries except the country of fire, there would never have been 4 ninja circles in Ninja Village. The Great War happened. Quote. While persuading, Uchiha Madara stretched out his right hand to Senju Hashirama. In the Sengoku era, you proposed to join forces with me, this time it's me. Join forces, Hashirama, you and I today are much stronger than you and me in the Sengoku era. As long as you and I work together, even the people in the sky cannot stop our progress. Facing Uchiha Madara's generous punches, Senju Hashirama's expression moved slightly, but finally shook his head. Madara, I still say the same thing, give up your dangerous thoughts, Mr. Sixian is not as simple as you think. He can make you and me, and he can also destroy you and me, don't overestimate yourself, let alone underestimate him. The form he showed today is something I have not seen for so many years, so this may be a kind of beating and warning to you or me in the future. Cyborg Senju Hashirama rejects Uchiha Madara's proposal. Hashirama, are you a wimpy, timid person, the god of ninjas? You even dared to join hands with me to assassinate Carl, why didn't you dare to resist that Sishion? When Uchiha Madara said this, Fangfo noticed something, his face sank suddenly, and a pair of black eyes instantly turned into three-pointed jade Rinnegan. By the way, why did you do it to Carl? When Sixian chose to kill me and take away Rinnegan, you strongly objected. Why did Sixian want to kill Carl and even let you do it, but you accepted it so calmly? Are you a Hashirama, or are you simply a Hashirama-like product? If you are really Hashirama, then with your personality, it is impossible to do anything to Carl, especially. He came out this time for your granddaughter, and even taught you the 6 styles and Haki granddaughter, helped her become a new ninja god. Speaking of which, Uchiha Madara's expression fluctuated. He wanted to deny the artificial man Senju Hashirama in front of him, but the other party's feelings for him were not fake. For himself, the artificial man Senju Hashirama did not hesitate to defy Sixian several times, and he also saw it. But if the cyborg Senju Hashirama in front of him is real Senju Hashirama, then why did the other party accept Carl so easily, BFAJ? It's not that I'm narcissistic. In the Sengoku era, the person who was closer to you Senju, or your brothers was not me, but Carl. Don't you think it's a little strange that you're being in between me and Carl? When Uchiha Madara said this, the powerful and huge chakra began to surge out, as if he would strike if he didn't agree with each other. Nothing surprising. I have inherited everything from Senju Hashirama, that's right, Mr. Sixian did this to prove that the me he created is a perfect work, the real Senju Hashirama. But here comes the problem. My strength has surpassed the original me, and I am the same as the original me in terms of emotion, memory, and personality, so what do you think I will do when I open my eyes? The android Senju Hashirama has a very calm expression. Kill, Sixian. Hearing this, Uchiha Madara put away her aura and chakra. That's right, after I regained my consciousness and understood what was going on with me, my first reaction was to use my current strength to attack Mr. Sishion. This memory has been kept forever. Cyborg Senju Hashirama's tone made Uchiha Madara feel very strange. It's not as if he is talking about something that is very important to him and plays an important role in it. That tone, that expression, was like an outsider. Then you. When Uchiha Madara said this, his tone paused, as if he had thought of something. As you can imagine, even if I am stronger than the original me, I am still vulnerable to Mr. Sishion. However, after Mr. Sixian defeated me, he didn't kill me. Instead, he sighed in distress. The Hashirama he created was too perfect. Afterwards, he reinvented me, erasing all my memories of Carl. Although I know that my memory and emotion are missing, and I know that Carl is the part of my missing memory and emotion, but he is a stranger. After being reformed by Mr. Sixian, when I faced him, I couldn't maintain the relationship of old friends like I faced you. The android Senju Hashirama leaned against a tree and sat down. Chapter 257 Sixian, I, Uchiha Madara, will kill you, Part 3. Please subscribe. A-hole. You know that you are being played by him like a guinea pig, so why do you still listen to him? Go back now, you and I will kill him together. After hearing this, Uchiha Madara couldn't help punching the ground, smashing it to pieces. Although what was deleted was the memories and emotions about Carl in Senju Hashirama's mind, but seeing the artificial human Senju Hashirama being like an experimental product, like a white mouse being played with by Sixian so recklessly, he was still very angry. At this moment, he was even more determined that he wanted to kill CJ. Even if this body was bestowed by Sishion, these eyes were only opened with the help of Sishion, but this could not shake his decision to kill Sishion. If you don't listen to him, then I will lose more emotions and memories. Tsunade, Tobarama, Mito, Konoha, and you, all of these will be lost one after another. At that time, I didn't know if I was still myself. I don't want to lose all that is left of me like Carl did. Every time I think that one day when I think of these names, I will be as calm and indifferent as when I think of Carl now. I feel an uncontrollable panic. Cyborg Senju Hashirama touched his forehead with a lonely expression. Hashirama, Uchiha Madara's face was horrified. At this time, he was digging the grave, and the scenes of digging his heart came to his mind uncontrollably. This made him couldn't help turning around, not daring to face the android Senju Hashirama in front of him. With contrast, seeing that the artificial man Senju Hashirama has become Sixian's plaything, work, and mouse, but still working hard to guard the remaining fetters, and then thinking of digging the grave and heart of the man in front of him, at this moment, initiated an emotion that is extremely rare in a lifetime. Regret. Carl is right, compared to him and Hashirama, he is a person who has no bottom line and no principles. Even the most cherished things in the past, today's him can give up. I've lost Carl, who is a stranger to me now. This kind of thing, once is enough, I can't tolerate the second time. Quote. Cyborg Senju Hashirama rises again. Then you should join forces with me and kill him. As long as Sixian is killed, Riki's problem will be solved. At that time, you and I will find a way to get back the lost part of memory and emotion. I have the Sengoku Rinnegan, even if it's not as good as Sixian, but if you think about what he can do, if you give me time, I can know it. Quote. Uchiha Madara paused every word. This is his promise. No matter what, he wants to retrieve the lost memory of Senju Hashirama, lest he know that the Senju Hashirama in front of him is just an artificial human. Sorry, I can't promise you. Even if we join forces, I don't see any chance of defeating Mr. C. Shion. At the beginning, he easily defeated me with just his initial form. The strength he displayed today is obviously not all of him. He should have a deeper level of strength. But even if you don't show your deeper strength, just the form of today, defeating you and me is just a snap of your fingers. The artificial man Senju Hashirama paused slightly when he said this. Let me say something that I find incredible. After the memories and emotions belonging to Carl were lost, when I saw Mr. Sixian again, I was very grateful to him. After all, he created me. Even though I later learned that he had done something to my memory, this gratitude has not faded. Although it's weird and strange, this is me now, so don't try to persuade me to join forces with you to kill Mr. Sixian, it's unrealistic, and I don't want to suffer from the pain of losing memory and emotion again. Quote. Asterisk 010212415124342190. After speaking, he got up and walked towards the land of fire. Hashirama has fallen to this point, do I still have to guard those fetters that are dispensable to me, ridiculous, and even trampled by me? Sixian, I, Uchiha Madara, will kill you. Uchiha Madara stared at the back of the android Senju Hashirama, his hands clenched into fists involuntarily, and a pair of 3-hooked jade Rinnegan were all cold and decisive. HMPH, I was hit by that B********** D Carl again. Do everything to protect your emotions, Hashirama, not only did I lose to you, but I also lost to another you. Hey, forget it, let it be returned to you. 0. He took a deep breath and caught up with the android Senju Hashirama. Last time, after seeing the Uchiha steal, he chose Infinite Tsukuyomi, chose Rinnegan, cut off the fetters with Senju Hashirama, even killed him, and even dug his grave in heart after leaving the mountain. This time, since his life was pulled back by Senju Hashirama, he will give it back. As for Infinite Tsukuyomi, 10 Tails Jinchuriki, he didn't give up either, he just kept it in his heart temporarily and ranked second. As for the first place, it is the android Senju Hashirama who walks ahead of him. He can't just watch this man being played and trampled on by Sixian like this, so even if he suspends Infinite Tsukuyomi, even if he gives up, he must destroy the other party. Hashirama, where are we going? You don't want to assassinate Carl right now, do you? Let me tell you, if you want to die, don't be in such a hurry. Although I don't want to admit it, I, Carl, are really ahead of you and me. Even if the 3-God Jade Rinnegan is activated now, I don't have the slightest assurance that I can beat him. After an era away, not only did he not stand still at all, but he played armament hockey to perfection. No, it was an extraordinary pair. Quote. Uchiha Madara has caught up with the android Senju Hashirama. Chapter 258. The Body of the Black Sword. Susan's knife can't cut it. Please subscribe to the 4th update. He refined his whole body into a black knife, the whole body. Hashirama, you should know what exactly this means, right? Judging by the strength of his armed forces, even if that guy stands still, my full body, Susanoo, may not be able to chop his body that turned into a black knife. Speaking of Carl refining his body into a black knife, Uchiha Madara couldn't help but be filled with haze and solemnity. Of course not, Mr. Carl's horror, I have already experienced it the time I saved you. Although I didn't try my best that time, but I used true several thousand hands to smash his clothes, but still couldn't break his black, 623, knife body. But it took me by surprise. Although the two of us are strong together, we may not be able to win him, not to mention that Mr. C. Shion will not accept your failure, not even once. Fortunately, although the time he gave was limited, it was still enough. Before that, I want to take you to a place first, and then I can go to Mr. Carl. Otherwise, if we lose, Mr. Carl may spare our lives, just like before asking me to take you away, but Mr. Sixian will definitely not let you go. Cyborg Senju Hashirama glanced at Uchiha Madara, then shook his head. Already lost one bond, he can't go to the second one. So that's what happened. 10 minutes after the androids Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara left, White Zetsu Fei slowly emerged from where they were sitting just now. First it was Carl, and then it was Mother's former enemy who didn't die. It's really getting more and more complicated. Now Black Zetsu had a headache. It's not easy to act in a script that I wrote myself. Quote. The picture of Black Zetsu with a dark face, writing and staying up all night to revise the script could not help but appear in White Zetsu's mind. Forget it, let him have a headache by himself. The top priority now is to complete the agreement with that guy from Iron Fist. Otherwise, Black Zetsu is estimated to be replaced by White Zetsu as a hooligan. Quote. White Zetsu shudders at the thought of the consequences of breaking his trust in Iron Fist. He would rather stay up all night with Black Zetsu to revise the script than be chased by Iron Fist for thousands of miles. Konohagakure Back Mountain. Carl sat on the edge of the river, fishing with a fishing rod in his hand, and quietly listening to the information obtained by White Zetsu beside him. Although White Zetsu Fei couldn't sneak into Sixian's enchantment, let alone enter Sixian's space, he followed carefully all the way, coupled with the support of full-scale intelligence investigation and analysis capabilities, he still analyzed a lot. Useful intelligence. Not to mention clarifying everything that happened in the space of Shion, the artificial man Senju Hashirama, and Uchiha Madara, but also inquiring and analyzing everything. Sure enough, there is a second Hashirama in the ninja world. Carl pondered for a moment. According to Afei, after Mr. Madara came out of that illusion enchantment, he was completely different from before. Why? For whatever reason, White Zetsu didn't mix up the intelligence. How much like two people? Hearing this, I became interested. Compared to him when he stole the power of the four shadows of the first generation, he is even stronger. After Mr. Madara came out, there was no more ground grievances, nor any other breath of the heart, but I don't know how to put it, it seems to have become very pure. White Zetsu thought about his words. Pure. Carl frowned. Yes, this is the term used by Afei before. When Madara used land resentment before, it gave people a very mixed feeling. But after coming out of the illusion enchantment, the feeling is very pure. Whether it is chakra or pupil power, there is a world of difference compared to before. It is purer than before or after the transplantation of first Hokage flesh and blood. Quote. Except for White Zetsu before Afei, basically other White Zetsu's IQ is not very high. It seems that Uchiha Madara got a lot of benefits from this trip. That's interesting. White Zetsu gave a strange laugh, like a root of a plant, slowly sinking into the ground, within Carl's sight. It is completely at the lowest limit of normal human IQ. Okay, you can go back. Instead, the silly White Zetsu relayed the information, asking questions and answering them, which would undoubtedly satisfy Carl more. When he used the observation haki to read useful information, he noticed that the Hashirama of the artificial man was stronger than the Hashirama in the coffin, and there was another big difference. After hiding for so many years, the old man finally found you. Sixian, or Otsutsuki style. At this time, Carl, who had roughly figured out the end of the work period, waved his hand and drove away directly. To use the words of White Zetsu Afei to describe it is pure. But if you just want to relay the information, that's enough. Carl's mind came up with the image of fighting against the android Senju Hashirama not long ago. Then I won't bother Mr. Carl. The one who can do this. Looking at the ninja world, he is the only one besides the goddess Uno on the moon, and the six paths brothers who are wandering in the ninja world and the pure land. Quote. White Zetsu noticed the change in Carl's eyes, and his body trembled instinctively. Carl's eyes flickered coldly. Both Sage Body and Wood Style are 2.8, giving him a feeling of incomparably pure, far above Senju Hashirama in the coffin. Chapter 259 The era of the ninja world is about to go berserk. Subscribe to the 5th update. The times are about to go berserk. Carl murmured, then packed up his fishing rod and turned to leave. From the moment the artificial man Senju Hashirama appeared, he sensed that the era of the ninja world was about to go berserk. Until the replacement of the old and new eras is complete, the era will always be in a state of rampage, and no one can stop it. Unless all the root causes of the runaway are cut off, the ninja world can directly pass through the junction of the old and new eras in peace. But, is this possible? The Sengoku era transitioned to the Ninja Village era, and the flames of war swept across the entire ninja world. When the era of Ninja Village transitions to a new era, it will inevitably experience a runaway. Carl uncle, are you leaving? Holding the food, Tsunade, who was standing pretty at the door of the wooden house, saw Carl come back, her beautiful eyes flashed slightly. Yes, Tsunade. Carl nodded, he had no intention of hiding it. Is it because of Grandpa's chakra? Tsunade couldn't help asking. It's been established that there has always been a 15-second Senju Hashirama in ninja world. Not only that, this Hashirama is stronger than the one lying in the coffin, and has come together with Uchiha Madara. Carl nodded. How so? Tsunade's pretty face changed slightly. Another grandpa actually partnered with Uchiha Madara. The two of them are fine, the real trouble is the one behind. A kind face flashed in Carl's heart. He had never seen this face in this ninja village, only in his previous life. Then Carl uncle, are you going to deal with the mastermind this time? Tsunade put down the food in his hand. Need my help? Maybe I can't help the man behind the scenes, but Uchiha Madara or another grandpa, if I call Kushina, I should be able to handle one. When it comes to facing Ninja Shura and Ninja God, at this moment, she still looks eager to try. Look at your words, as if you are worried that the old man will not be able to defeat them. Carl grinned. Of course not, I just volunteered to help. Carl uncle, you are invincible, how can there be anyone you can't beat? Tsunade scoffed. Your kindness, I appreciate it. But if the old man really abducted you, Luju and the others would probably all kneel here, crying and blocking the way. Carl shook his head. Tsunade was also a little tangled when he heard this. Konoha is now in an unprecedented state of reform. In addition to taking over the 4 great ninja villages and establishing Konoha Shinobi Village, there is also an alternation of old and new Hokage. All of this requires top-level combat power to sit in command. Kushina and Might Dai have already gone to the Land of Thunder and the Land of Water respectively, and she is in Konoha Zong Village. If she leaves at this time, a large number of troops will be sent to Shikoku. Konoha Zong Village has unprecedented lack of combat power and defense strength. It is also unprecedentedly low, and various mistakes are likely to occur. The most troublesome thing is that once there is a problem with the main village, the establishment of the 4th village will also be affected. You should stay in Konoha. Although you have no intention of being Hokage, but now you are already Konohagakure's ninja god, the spiritual pillar. If you stay here, the Konoha shinobi of the other 4 villages will be safe. Even if you are not interested in being a Hokage, you can make Konoha complete the unification with your own hands, surpassing Konoha in the era of the Senju brothers. If you think about it, you really want to do it yourself. Carl stroked Tsunade's golden double ponytails. Okay, but if you need Carl uncle, remember to call me. Although I don't think anyone in the ninja world can beat you, but you can't let you face the mastermind behind the scenes alone, plus Grandpa, Uchiha Madara. It's not about you alone, it's about me, and the whole Konoha thing. The me now is not the Shao gang who only knew how to call 666 when you first came out of the mountain. Tsunade put his hands on his hips and said with high spirits. Okay, I know Shaogang is different now. If there is a real fight, I will definitely call you. Carl patted Tsunade's shoulder, and then walked 100 meters, and disappeared from Tsunade's sight within a few steps. Shaving. When will I be able to look like this? Seeing that Carl shaves like shrinking his body, Tsunade can't help but be amazed by his beautiful eyes. She has already learned all 6 styles. Don't say that like Carl's use of the 6 postures is the same as the body's instincts. Even if you practice to the peak, there is still a long way to go. At least, compared with Carl in the Sengoku era, there is still an extremely long distance of 990 between her now. If you want to catch up with Carl in front of you, the journey is even more distant. After bidding farewell to Tsunade, Carl didn't disturb anyone, walked 100 meters, and left Yutu quietly. He did not follow the information provided by White Zetsu, Fei, to the land of the wind to find Sixian, nor did he go to Uchiha Madara and the artificial Senju Hashirama, but went to a place alone and looked at the entire ninja world. A holy place visited by people. Mount Myoboku. Although it's a long way from Konohagakure to Mount Myoboku, it's not that far for Carl. Let alone rushing at full speed, it was just a step of 100 meters, just like ordinary people walking. Not long after he came out of Konohagakure, he had already come to a sparsely populated forest. Looking at the curling mist covering the forest, Carl chuckled and walked through the fog. This is the only entrance to Ninja World and Mount Myoboku. Ordinary people want to enter Mount Myoboku, either rely on the summoning technique to make a mistake, or sign a summoning contract with Mount Myoboku. The last one is to pass through the barrier of Mount Myoboku directly as he does now, and visit the 3 holy places in the Ninja World 1. Chapter 260. Long time no see. Hama 1, subscribe to Chapter 6. Humanity actually broke through the barrier of Mount Myoboku. How did you do it? Perhaps Carl's way of entering Mount Myoboku hasn't been seen in a long time. Almost as soon as he stepped into Mount Myoboku, toads of various sizes surrounded him. Iron Fist. When the leader, Hama Wentai, saw Carl's face clearly, the face with the word, arrogant, immediately turned into a flattering face. Boy when, seeing a familiar toad, Carl couldn't help taking a step, and he landed on top of Toad Bunta. Lord Carl, I wonder why you came to Mount Myoboku. Being trampled on by a person who didn't sign a contract as soon as he came, and under the eyes of many Toad brothers and friends, Toad Wentai not only didn't have any dissatisfaction, but laughed along with him. No way, it's not that Hamoan is too cowardly, it's that the man in front of him is too terrifying. Needless to say, Fukasaku and Shima often talked about Carl, saying that this man is the most accomplished human being in the ninja world after the Sage of 6 Paths for thousands of years. Simply speaking, he had personally witnessed Carl's attack in the previous 3rd Ninja World War and the not long ago 4th Ninja World War. With every gesture, he looks like a god-man descending into the ninja world. One punch can tear the earth apart, and one kick can split the sky. After witnessing such a shocking scene, he doesn't think he has any qualifications to be the boss in front of this man. The matter of old age is not something that a little toad like you can intervene in. Take me to see Toad Wan. Carl said flatly. Yes, then you have to sit still. Toad Ball. This name is the name of the great Toad Sage. Even if it is our own Toad, few dare to call the name of the great Toad Sage directly, let alone a foreign human being. However, the rebellious Toad Wentai didn't feel anything wrong. In his opinion, if Mount Myoboku really wants to find a toad to talk to the man in front of him on an equal footing, the only one that has survived since the time of Sage of 6 Paths is the Toad Pill. Boom. With Gama Bunta's Mount Myoboku supercar as a means of transportation, the building where the great Toad Sage lived soon appeared in Carl's sight. Not only that, sensing his arrival, Fukasaku and Shima, who had only met once on the battlefield not long ago, were already waiting at the door. Mr. Carl, the old man asked us to meet you. You know his body and bones, only the 2 of us can come out. Seeing Carl come down from the head of Toad Bunta, Shima and Fukasaku, who are only under the great Toad Sage in Mount Myoboku, immediately stepped forward, although they would not exchange the arrogance on their faces for flattery like Toad Bunta, but they were still polite. Courtesy is added. Don't worry, I won't care about such a small matter. In the case of Hama Wan, I know better than both of you that he won't move if he can. Carl waved his hand, and then, guided by 2 toads, walked into the palace. Although he doesn't know Sage Mode, his observation haki can perceive it clearly. In Mount Myoboku, which can be called the most abundant natural energy in the ninja world, the natural energy floating in the air at this time is always facing towards the front of the chair. He is very clear that Hama Wan has maintained this posture of gathering natural energy for hundreds of years. Gathering natural energy without moving for hundreds of years, once this natural energy erupts, he knows better than anyone how terrifying it will be. Long time no see, Toad Wan. Carl walked towards Hama Wan step by step. You came. Sensing Carl's arrival, Hamamaru opened its cloudy toad eyes. The other Otsutsuki didn't die, he came out. Although there is still some distance from the peak period, it is not much worse. Judging from the current situation in the ninja world, unless Brother Six Paths is revived, all the ninjas and all the chakra in the entire ninja world will not be able to beat him alone. Carl glanced at Hama Wan, and compared to the last time we met, the natural energy in the other party's body was much larger. After all, Brother Six Paths is dead, and the ninja world can take precautions, and there is not much left to fight against Otsutsuki. He is one, the Katsuyu Immortal of Shishiku Forest is one, and as for Raichi Cave, forget it. Hama Wan slowly raised a hand, the surrounding natural energy is huge and dense enough to be seen by the naked eye. 6 is more complete, please subscribe and support, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hama Wan frowned slightly. It is estimated that one of them is close to Ashura and the other is close to Indra. Quote. In addition to Otsutsuki, there is an extra Senju Hashirama, and the Uchiha Madara has changed too. For hundreds of years, he has been sitting here without moving to gather natural energy just to deal with Otsutsuki. Carl spread his hands. With an old man taking care of her hand in hand, it would not be too bad to give her another 12 years. Quote. Even the Haki that inherited you, the Tsunade of the 6th style, and the little girl who has the power of 9 tails is not enough. Is this coming back to use my power bundle? How long has Katsuna practiced Haki in 6 forms? As for Kushina, if you have learned all the sage modes of the 3 holy places, you should be able to pass a few tricks, but you will still be beaten. Quote. As soon as he said this, the old toad face of Hama Wan suddenly showed a trace of worry. Indra and Ashura are on Otsutsuki's side this time, or are they in his hands, so what's your plan? Of the king, is that so? It's good enough not to turn against each other. Chapter 261 With a mortal body, it is comparable to the man in the sky, please subscribe for the first chapter. No, this time he is looking for the old man, not the ninja world. It's just Otsutsuki, the old man can cook him himself. Keep your power of nature as a whole card to defend against the Otsutsuki that will come in a big way one day. Although that day really comes, your little natural energy will be useless. Quote. Carl shook his head. A Sixian, or just one style. It's not enough to let the ninja world play all its cards. After all, compared with the Otsutsuki clan, which has a huge number of people and has survived for an unknown number of years, the background of the ninja world is really too poor. If thousands of years ago, Kagayaji accidentally created the talented 6 Paths brothers, and this pair of brothers also stood on the side of the ninja world would have been GG. But no matter how amazing the 6 Paths brothers are, they are dead after all, and even if they are not dead, there are only 2 of them. Faced with 1, 2, 3, 4 Otsutsuki, the 6 Paths brothers can win, but what about 5, 6, or even more? In fact, in 443 Carl's opinion, let alone a large-scale attack, as long as Otsutsuki pays a little more attention to the ninja world, sending 10 clansmen can directly sweep the entire ninja world. It is precisely because they are well aware of the weak background in the ninja world and appear weak in front of Otsutsuki that the 6 Paths brothers have tried every means to prepare for the battle during their lifetime and after their death. Whether it is dividing chakra, allowing everyone in the ninja world to use chakra, or creating 9-tailed beasts, etc., it is all to increase the heritage of the ninja world. In your words, it means doing your best and obeying the destiny. Hamamaru didn't know that Otsutsuki didn't need to attack aggressively, just 10 or 8 ninjas at a time would be finished. But you can't do nothing. What's more, Brother 6 Paths and his millennium efforts are not the only ones. Stop talking about that. Fukasaku and Shima told you about the matter of the old man forging his body into a black sword after he came back. Now that Datong BFFF Wood has begun to intervene in the ninja world, he has also created a second Senju Hashirama, Uchiha Madara, and combined with Indra and Ashura Chikara who resided on them to return their blood to their ancestors. Quote. Carl stopped talking about the future. After all, the Otsutsuki family is too mysterious, and even he knows how many people there are in Otsutsuki, and how far the elders and patriarchs are. It is also true that he has never let his own strength be lowered all these years. After the Sengoku era, he clearly understood his role. His opponent was never anyone from the ninja world, not Uchiha Madara, nor the second Senju Hashirama, but Otsutsuki. Otsutsuki of ninja world, Otsutsuki beyond the universe. Unless he leaves the ninja world, this must be faced. Compared with Otsutsuki not coming yet, he will be like a lost dog, wandering in the vast universe. He is more inclined to beat one to death as soon as Otsutsuki comes. This is also the case, even after signing the enhanced version of the Garp template, with strength that is not restricted by age, and stronger characteristics, he does not become stronger naturally, but with Senju Tobirama and the toad in front of him. Maru and others exist to explore and study Haki. Refining himself into the body of a black sword is one of his achievements over the years. I didn't expect that a hypothesis back then, you actually turned it into reality. Big Hamawan opened his cloudy eyes and looked straight at Carl. Clang. Sensing Hama Wan's thoughts, Carl smiled, and directly used the return of life to gather the skin covering the body of the black knife. In an instant, a purple-black light glowed all over his body, like a human-shaped black knife, just standing there randomly, without releasing any power. He was already full of tenacity and immortality. The sharp-edged Carl has already caught the eyes of Hama-wan. Go for it. Hope you succeed. After finishing speaking, Hama-wan closed his eyes again, seeming to be in a deep sleep, but in fact he was gathering natural energy. Obviously, the three characters Otsutsuki are like a sharp knife hanging above all life in the ninja world. Every time a single Otsutsuki is born, it will cause a huge disaster in the ninja world. If the problem of Otsutsuki is not resolved for a day, he will don't want to waste a second. After Hama-wan finished speaking, Fangfo raised a hand with some difficulty. It should be the body of the black knife. After all, you are the first and only one in the millennium who does not practice chakra, but catches up with brother Yuya with a pure-blooded human body. Your stuff is always in there. It's really a black knife. Click. After so many years, I think it can match your aura. Carl, you really are an amazing person. When Hamamaru saw Carl showing Heidao's body, his cloudy toad eyes burst into a compelling light. With a mortal body, you can stand shoulder to shoulder with a man in the sky. You are the only one who can do it for thousands of years. Quote. Other than Yuya and Hamura, I have never met anyone comparable to you. Haha, now that the idea of the year has been turned into reality by you, people like Otsutsuki, the second Senju Hashirama, and Uchiha Madara have all been born, and the demise of the four great ninja villages, the rampage of the times is inevitable. Behind his seat, there was originally nothing but the wall, but now there is an extra door in the air. Carl grinned softly. Indeed. Now, the time is ripe, and it's time for your body of black power to take a step forward. Chapter 262 Great Toad Sage, A Hero Once in a Millennium Part 2. Please subscribe. Thanks. Carl thanked Hama-wan. Although he has many choices, Mount Myoboku is the only one, such as Raichi Cave and Shibone Forest, which are both three holy places, are good choices, even in the outside world, but looking at the entire ninja world, the one with the most natural energy must belong to the three great holy land. After all, in other parts of the ninja world, the natural energy of the ninja world has been greatly weakened because of the planting of the first sacred tree and a chakra fruit. Now this planet, the natural energy is still as abundant as it was before Otsutsuki Ashiki and Otsutsuki Kagaya planted the sacred tree thousands of years ago, and there are only 3 holy places left in the huge place. If he didn't take advantage of the location of Mount Myoboku, but chose to be in another place in the ninja world, then he would have to spend a lot of effort and time. Thousands of years ago, Yuya and Hamura thought of fusing natural energy with chakra, thus gaining the power to fight against Uno. Thousands of years later, you thought of combining natural energy with Haki. Hey, after waiting for 1,000 years, the ninja world finally figured out a hero like you. Does it really take 1,000 years to produce one person like you, Yuya, and Hamura? If there are a few more, why is the ninja world here? After Carl passed through the gate and disappeared into the hall, Tomomaru's closed eyes opened slightly, revealing a gap. You must succeed, Carl. I alone can't last long. After all, Yuya and the others are dead, but none of their descendants can be relied on. Quote. Thinking of the descendants of Otsutsuki Yuya and Otsutsuki Hamura, his heart felt heavy and depressed. One has killed each other in the ninja world for thousands of years. 1,000 years of cannibalism on the moon. None are reliable. Those who have achieved a little bit, such as Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, will basically fall into a lifetime of infighting. This has also led to the fact that after thousands of years, he can only support himself, not to mention finding someone to entrust, and there is not even a person who can share and complain verbally. It wasn't until Carl's appearance, and the time he came to Mount Myoboku many years ago, that he saw the light. However, thinking of Haki's fusion with natural energy, the violence of that energy, the haze in Hamamaru's heart became more and more intense. Decades ago, he had seen Carl fuse Haki with natural energy, and it was just like this. He knew very well that the difficulty of combining Haki with natural energy was dozens of times more dangerous than that of the fairy art chakra. Sage mode, as long as you have a huge chakra, you can practice it. But the fusion of Haki and natural energy requires not only a huge Haki, but also an unbelievably powerful body. Even though many years have passed, Tomomaru still remembers how shocking the picture was when Carl first performed the fusion of Haki and natural energy. After all, at that time, even Brother Six Paths, who had been dead for many years and only chakra was left floating in the ninja world, was alarmed. Just as Hamamaru sighed for the group of Six Paths brothers' helpless descendants, and prayed for Carl, who walked through the door, had come to a wide, empty room surrounded by shining stars. Ask for flowers. With the continuous huge natural energy, armament Haki merged into Carl's body from the black stone statue, and thick purple lightning bolts, like mighty black dragons with teeth and claws, suddenly appeared from the air and wrapped around his body surface. If anyone else is here, they will definitely find that this statue is exactly the same as Carl's body after displaying the black knife, regardless of size, height, build, and face. 0. Decades of natural energy accumulated day after day, year after year, coupled with compatibility with Haki, should be fine. After pondering for a while, and confirming that the situation of the stone statue was as he thought, Carl stepped forward and pressed his right hand on the stone statue. Whoosh! The metal-like black luster on the stone statue was entirely made of armament Haki. Chi. The originally pitch-black body began to glow with bursts of blue light. In the next second, the shining light surrounding the stone statue began to slowly sink into Carl's body along the palm of his hand. As for the gleaming light surrounding the stone statue, it is entirely due to the accumulation of too much natural energy, which produces a vision visible to the naked eye. The only difference is that the surroundings of this black statue are covered by shining rays of light visible to the naked eye. At the same time, the black luster on the stone statue is also fading, as if Armament Haki, who made the stone statue into a black knife creation, is being sucked away. At this time, in the center of the room, there was a lifelike statue with a black body, just like the body of Karl's black sword. The dragon-shaped pattern wrapped around his waist not only became more flexible and lifelike, especially the pair of dragon eyes, which gave people a feeling of life and wisdom, and the color of the dragon body also changed. Rather than saying it is a stone statue, it is better to say that this is a black knife creation. Karl sensed the black stone statue. Chapter 263 The Power of Immortals, but merely please subscribe to Chapter 3. It appears to have worked. Sure enough, only after refining the body into a black knife body, can the body withstand the berserk power of Haki compatible with natural energy. After all, even when the gentle energy of chakra is compatible with natural energy, any mistake will turn into a toad, or even become a stone sculpture, let alone Haki. This is not in vain for the persistent efforts of the old man for so many years. Feeling the description of Haki and natural energy in the body, and even after injecting a large amount of natural energy into Hidao's body, it gradually produced unprecedented changes, the corners of Karl's mouth slightly raised. This scene, he had already predicted it with his experience and knowledge before it started. Speaking of it, 347 also relies on observation Haki's prediction. Haki, the ability to integrate natural energy, or the experiment can progress in an orderly manner. After all, it is because of observation Haki's ability to predict the future that he can see the results directly without actually testing his body. Coincidentally, on the side of Mount Myoboku, Karl is methodically integrating Haki with natural energy. On the other side, in the Land of Fire, in a hidden place surrounded by enchantments, Uchiha Madara is sitting under the waterfall, letting the rushing water flow from above the impact hits the body's surface, but the body is as if it is integrated with the rock under the feet, sitting comfortably and still. Over time, black lines appeared on Uchiha Madara's motionless face, forming a strange facial makeup. Madara, you made it. The sage face appears, and your face doesn't show any Katsuyu-like features. It also shows that your sage mode is close to perfect. Quote. Senju Hashirama, an android at the side, couldn't help but smile with relief when he saw this scene. Sure enough, he didn't expect it. After changing to a body whose bloodline is no less than that of Indra, Uchiha Madara not only has stronger pupil power, but also chakra has grown a lot. With the help of Sengoku Rinnegan, and his guidance, without any detours, Uchiha Madara's sage mode was mastered very quickly. Is this the power of a fairy? I thought it was so hard to master. HMPH, now it seems that this kind of power is only mediocre. Uchiha Madara opened the three-hook jade Rinnegan, first glanced at his hands, and then raised his mouth slightly when he saw the artificial Senju Hashirama. The smile on cyborg Senju Hashirama's face froze instantly. When I proposed to teach sage mode before, why didn't I see you, Uchiha Madara, say that? Now that I have learned sage mode, my attitude and expression are like a different person. Also, if you didn't raise the corners of your mouth when you said this, I'll just barely believe it. What, am I wrong? Uchiha Madara couldn't help asking when seeing the artificial man Senju Hashirama looking at him more and more strangely. It's nothing, it's just that I used this mere strength to smash you to pieces. Seeing that Uchiha Madara's attitude became more and more arrogant, the cyborg Senju Hashirama couldn't help but say something. That was just back then. The Uchipai's unruly smile froze. However, everything Senju Hashirama said is true, and he cannot deny it. Madara, you trust me, in fact, now I can also take you. Now that I have mastered sage mode, it's time for us to find Karl. As if knowing what the cyborg Senju Hashirama was trying to say, Uchiha Madara interrupted nonchalantly. There is no way, after being the tail of the crane for so many years, in the trio, he really can't come up with a good record to refute. After all, he has never won against Senju Hashirama, let alone Karl. The time that Sixian gives you and me is limited. Now the last day is not far away. If it's really overtime, I guess he won't let you and me go. Uchiha Madara was afraid that his diversion of the subject would not be convincing enough, so he directly brought up Shion. A few more days. Don't you want to practice for a while? After all, although your sage mode is close to perfect, it is still not proficient. Quote. The cyborg Senju Hashirama heard that, although he knew that Uchiha Madara was deliberately changing the subject, he was not interested in joking with Uchiha Madara when it came to the tasks assigned by Shion. No need, I will never do things that are superfluous. The perfect sage mode you mentioned means that the fairy face completely disappears, right? HMPH. You two have practiced Hashirama for so many years, but the face is still there. Uchiha Madara said coldly, your chakra is more than 10 times bigger than mine, and you also have a sage body that is close to that of Otsutsuki. After so many years, you still haven't cultivated to the state where the fairy face completely disappears. 1.3 This also means that the perfect sage mode that makes Facebook disappear either does not exist, or it is impossible for you to achieve it. I don't even have a sage body, and chakra is not as good as you. Let alone practicing for 2 or 3 days, even if I practice for a few more years, it will be similar to now. Quote. Although the time to practice sage mode is very short, I have to say that Rinnegan's use of chakra, the control is too unique. plus a body that is worse than before. Even without Sage body, chakra is not as good as Senju Hashirama huge. He still has completed the Sage mode of no less than 10 artificial Senju Hashirama in just counting the time. Chapter 264 done. Do I need to give you a few more days to practice? The fourth update asks for subscription. Sage mode exists to make Facebook disappear. It's just that it may be as you said, you and I can't reach it. I can feel that if we can take Sage mode a step further, we might be able to gain the power to compete with the current Carl. Cyborg Senju Hashirama affirmed. In his memory, another Senju Hashirama had been to the Shikban forest, and had also been to Mount Myoboku. Whether it is Great Toad Sage or Katsuyu Immortal, the two super old antiques have said that the Sage mode that makes Facebook disappear is the most perfect, and there have been people who have successfully practiced it in the history of the ninja world, and there are still two. I just don't know why. No matter whether it's another Senju Hashirama or him, or even Uchiha Madara who opened the three-god Jade Rinnegan in front of him, all of them can only practice Sage mode to the level of retaining eyeshadow, that is, the level of fairy facial makeup. When thinking about going further, there will always be a kind of resistance blocking it. What conditions need to be fulfilled to release the Buddha in order to reach a higher level of Sage mode? 15. It is also true that the artificial man Senju Hashirama is sure that if Sage mode is taken a step further, there will inevitably be earth-shaking changes. No need, now you. Together with me, I can already compete with Carl, and even defeat him. Uchiha Madara raised his right hand and clenched it into a fist. Carl was the first. After that, we will arrive at Sixian. Uchiha and Senju unite, there is no opponent that cannot be defeated. Feeling the powerful immortal power in his body, he couldn't help feeling full of confidence. You're right, then let's go find Mr. Carl. It's time to make a break with him. Quote. Although there were still a few days before the mission limit, Uchiha Madara was aggressive, and Senju Hashirama, the cyborg, did not refute. Indeed, if it is impossible to go further in Sage mode, even if you practice for a few more days, it will be the same as now. Just like him, after practicing Sage mode for so many years, except for being more proficient and gathering natural energy faster, it is almost the same as when he was half studying Sage mode. It's long overdue. Uchiha Madara nodded, and then reached out to remove the enchantment covering the entire valley and waterfall. Walk. After the barrier dissipated, the android Senju Hashirama turned his head and walked in the direction of Konoha. But the moment he turned around, the smile on his face froze. Uchiha Madara on the side didn't speak, but stared at it with extremely complicated eyes. After the barrier was removed, he appeared in his eyes. The burly man leaning against a tree. Finished training. Do you need me to give you a few more days to practice? Carl looked at Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama who appeared in sight, and said in a calm tone. After arriving here, the old man is already ready to wait for a few more days. So, if there is a need for this, you are welcome. I will give you a few more days, this little patience. I am still old enough, after all, this is your last time. Quote. Although he was facing the god of ninja and ninja Shura, Carl's expression was as calm and casual as ever, and he didn't show any other expressions except for a big grin. When did you come? Uchiha Madara frowned slightly. I don't know if it's an illusion. After practicing Sage mode, his perception is many times better than before. It was also true that he keenly sensed some unusual aura from Carl. That was the aura that Carl didn't have during the Fourth Ninja World War. It's not early, it was only yesterday. Carl said lightly. So, Mr. Carl, you've been waiting for us all day. Cyborg Senju Hashirama's heart sank slightly. What a confidence. Knowing that the two of them were practicing inside, they sat outside calmly and waited. They practiced Sage mode, but only to kill the man in front of them, but the other party not only waited for a day, but also the enchantment dissipated. The first reaction was not to shout and kill, not to take advantage of the opportunity to sneak attack, but to ask if they had enough time to practice. Good. Y'all haven't answered the old question yet, is there enough time? In such a haste, are you sure you're just here to find the old man? Carl nodded, then said in a nonchalant tone. That's enough, thank you for giving me an extra 140 days. Uchiha Madara feels the same way as Cyborg Senju Hashirama. As soon as they face each other, ask them if they have enough time to practice. Even though they have faced such a majestic man many times, it still makes him feel a lot of pressure. It's okay, it's just one day. Carl said indifferently, and then slowly stood up straight against the body of the tree. Without any momentum or release of any power, just a straight movement of the body has already made the artificial human Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara who has already cultivated Sage mode reflexively reveal a posture of facing an enemy. Since you don't need the old man to give you more time to practice, then please die here. Just right, the environment, climate, and feng shui here are all good. It is perfect for the joint burial of the two. Following Carl's calm, non-murderous words, a depressive and heavy aura instantly occupied the area, and even the air and gravity were affected. Uchiha Madara and the two immediately felt the air change. Thick down. Chapter 265 The Sengoku Sanji's Classmate Reunion Part 5 Please subscribe. This kind of demeanor. Although I have no memory of you in my mind, I still feel very familiar. Cyborg Senju Hashirama looked directly at Carl in front of him. Obviously everything about this man is blank, but he still feels very familiar. Memories can be modified, but some instincts originating from Senju Hashirama cannot be lost. After all, he has challenged the old man many times and lost to the old man many times. You are an artificial human created based on Senju Hashirama's genes, which will feel familiar and normal. Quote. Carl looked at the cyborg Senju Hashirama in front of him, and Gujing's unwavering eyes slightly rippled, but disappeared in the next second. Not the same as Uchiha Madara. Although the artificial Senju Hashirama is exactly the same as the Senju Hashirama in the coffin, they are two people after all, two souls. No matter how similar they are always two people. It is also true that he did not subtly regard the artificial human Senju Hashirama in front of him as another Senju Hashirama in his memory like Uchiha Madara did. You know so much. Uchiha Madara frowned. Strange. He knows this kind of thing through personal experience, but why Carl is far away in the land of fire, but he is so clear about him and the artificial man Senju Hashirama. Ever since Tobirama was second Hokage, I've known about Tobirama's existence. I have to say that the people behind you are still successful. He obviously has many options to choose from, but he chose to use Senju Hashirama as the blueprint to create the current you, just to shake the old will. He has really studied the old Haki thoroughly. He even knows that there is a close relationship between will and Haki. Carl glanced at the android Senju Hashirama. Unfortunately, it's only half the battle. After all, under the influence of you, only Uchiha Madara is the only one who regards you as Senju Hashirama. In the eyes of the old, you are Senju Hashirama, but you are not Senju Hashirama. As soon as these words came out, Uchiha Madara's expression gradually became a little subtle. Haki, he knew that too. It is inextricably linked with will. The stronger the will, the more determined, the more convinced you are, the more angry you will be. On the contrary, if he doesn't even trust himself, even if his belief and will are shaken, how can Haki be so strong? I see. Is this why Sixian went to such lengths to create a second Senju Hashirama? Everything is to shake Carl's will. In the fight between life and death, even a little wavering, a little pity will affect Carl, and will have a huge impact on possession. Thinking of this, Uchiha Madara's killing intent towards Sixian became stronger. This is totally using Senju Hashirama as a plaything. To deal with Carl, use Senju Hashirama's genes if it works. It's really hard to shake your will, Mr. Carl. After the two eras, whether it is Madara, another me, or even myself, they have actually changed a lot, but you, Mr. Carl, have not changed since the moment the three of us met in the Sengoku era. Will not be affected by anyone or anything, and the belief will be consistent. Your will is really shockingly firm. The cyborg Senju Hashirama couldn't help sighing when he heard this. He is not an idiot. He has inherited the memory of Senju Hashirama, coupled with the investigation of Carl over the years. He naturally understands the relationship between Haki and will, and understands why Sixian created him. Everything is to use his face to shake Carl's mind and will, even if it's just a little bit. On the contrary, it was me. The moment I came into this world, under the influence of the memories and emotions in my mind, my first reaction was to kill the person who created me. Cyborg Senju Hashirama takes a look at Carl. What makes his eyes a little complicated is that Carl's eyes are as calm as ever. Apparently, his words still couldn't sway Carl. This is where the people behind you are struggling. Leave the memories and emotions that belong to the old man in your mind, then don't let you kill the old man, you will even do it to him in reverse. Why don't you stay? Then, to the old man, are you still in love with each other? You are just a person wearing the Senju Hashirama's skin to kill old people. Carl looked at the android Senju Hashirama with a half smile. Cyborg Senju Hashirama fell silent. Uchiha Madara on the side also didn't speak. His feelings are different from Carl's again. It may be because of grave digging and heart digging, or it may be because the lost emotions and memories of the artificial man Senju Hashirama do not belong to his part, or it may be that the artificial man Senju Hashirama is on his Zhao side. During this period of getting along, subtly, he really regarded the other party as Senju Hashirama. Even if Carl pointed out Sixian's intentions in person, he was still in it, unable to extricate himself, and unwilling to realize it on his own. It is also true that he also recognized Carl's words. Sixian's goal of creating the android Senju Hashirama succeeds, but only half the battle. The fetters belonging to the three masters of Sengoku did not restrain Carl, but instead restrained him. Uchiha Madara. Alright, it's time for this unusual class reunion to come to an end. Since you don't need any more time, it's time to hit the road. The moment Carl's voice fell, he had disappeared, leaving only a black suit in place. Chapter 266 Hashirama's Sage Mode. Not bad, 6th more subscription required. Madara. From the first moment he saw Carl, the android Senju Hashirama never took his attention away from the man. Whether it's perception or sight, they are all locked on Carl. It was also like this, the moment Carl made a move and disappeared from the spot, he responded immediately. Weird power. The artificial man Senju Hashirama stepped forward, stopped in front of Uchiha Madara, and then punched fiercely. Boom. The moment the fist stretched out, the air tens of meters in front seemed to be compressed into the ultimate, forming a near vacuum area. At the same time, driven by his surging strange force, the atmosphere was forced to be compressed, forming a translucent shock wave. The same strange power as Tsunade. But it's much more terrifying than Tsunade before learning Haki in 6 forms. Perhaps in terms of chakra control, Tsunade is no worse than the artificial man Senju Hashirama in front of him, but the physique between the two, as well as Chakra's physique, is simply too big. Sage body, which is no less than Ashura, and Chakra, which is as surging as Wang Yang's sea and has unfathomable depth, the combination of the two releases a strange power fist that can split mountains and crack earth. Ordinary Susanoo, as long as it is not perfect, it will be shattered with one punch. Even with the Yata mirror in hand, Uchiha's mature Susanoo couldn't resist the power of his punches. Boom. But it was such a fist that contained terrifying and strange power, but it was grasped firmly by a palm like a cattail fan, which spread its 5 fingers directly. Even if the fists and palms clashed, there would be shocking waves that could not be matched by the S-level wind-style profound techniques, but the artificial human Senju Hashirama's strange fist could not shake Carl's palm even half of it. So strong. Cyborg Senju Hashirama's pupils shrank, showing a hint of horror. Although he had already faced off with Carl before, it was a confrontation with true several thousand hands, not a physical combat like the current one. It is also true, because he has not personally experienced the strength of Carl's physique because of the memory of Carl. Until this moment, he finally realized it personally. With just one punch, he felt as if he had turned back to his childhood, as if he had hit a thick hill with all his strength. Even with Sage Body, even with Chakra's protection, he still felt a stabbing pain from his fist. Fortunately, his Sage Body is comparable to Ashura, even if he didn't enter Sage mode at this time, the damaged fist healed in an instant. Not yet in Sage mode. Carl held the android Senju Hashirama firmly. When the time comes, I will use it of course. The cyborg Senju Hashirama took a deep breath, but said without showing any sign of weakness. How dare you hide your clumsiness in front of the old? Regardless of whether it is real Hashirama or artificial Hashirama, the term strict control has always been an old patent. As for you, he is not qualified. After Carl finished speaking, his palms sank. The moment the sharp roar exploded, the shock wave of the flash flood blasted the artificial man Senju Hashirama into the air. Sage Art Fire style fire extinguished. Without Carl chasing the artificial man Senju Hashirama, Uchiha Madara on the side had already completed the imprint, and between opening his mouth and spitting out, the temperature of the kilometer was rising at an astonishing speed. The air was like boiling hot water. Even if on the battlefield, there is still a kind of pain like being in BFEB, boiling hot water. In the next second, huge waves of flames rushed towards Carl one after another like a stormy sea. Uchiha Madara's fire style is already powerful, but after changing the body and re-evolving eyes, it is even more powerful. Now that I have learned Sage mode, the power is beyond imagination. An ordinary fire style, cast from his mouth, it is like a tailed beast performing ninjutsu. Sage mode of the same style as Hashirama. It's okay. The 6th update is completed. Please subscribe and support. I am very grateful. I am very grateful. At the same time as a sharp whistling sound exploded, the oncoming 10-layered fire waves were cut open in the middle by a 1,000-meter-long slashing wave that could connect the earth and sky of the ninja world, and then blazed burning boundless fire waves suddenly extinguished. Looking at the entire ninja world, in the living life, apart from the masters of the 3 holy places, the 3 old monsters who have survived for thousands of years, 9 tails and the artificial human Senju Hashirama in front of them, there is no chakra who can compare Uchiha Madara as even bigger. After speaking, Carl unhurriedly raised his foot to sweep. Don't look at what he said in Senju Hashirama before that the power of a fairy is mediocre, but that is just a matter of character, and he habitually pretends in front of Senju Hashirama. Even the chakra of Uzumaki Kushina itself was not as huge as the Uchiha Madara at the time. Uchiha Madara landed next to Senju Hashirama, who was knocked into the air, with a dissatisfaction on his face. After the blessing of Hashirama's Sage mode, a fire style of Uchiha Madara is more than several times stronger than the normal one. Call out. It's not that chakra is not enough, but that fire style's attainments can't reach the level of Uchiha Madara. In addition, Tailed Beast will not be able to Sage mode. Such a fire style is difficult even for ordinary tailed beasts to display. Sorry, it's really just okay. After all, the bigger the chakra is, the bigger the increase will be after entering Sage mode. As long as it is Hashirama, regardless of the artificial man or the one in the coffin, this forces him to be Uchiha Madara. Carl's eyes lit up slightly in the face of the turbulent fire waves approaching, which were as many as 10 times thick and nearly 100 meters high. Having acquired a body no less than that of Indra, chakra of Uchiha Madara went one step further. Is it just okay? Chapter 267 One Kick. Fivefold Rashomon, Broken Part 1 More subscription required. Summoning Technique Fivefold Rashomon. Senju Hashirama's face showed a serious look that seemed to be substantial. Fire style Hahuo Mie was extinguished, but after the turbulent fire wave was extinguished, Carl's terrifying slashing wave did not disappear. Instead, it was like a rampaging ancient dragon, unscrupulously attacking both of them. People come angrily. In the face of such violent and terrifying slashing waves, he did not dare to neglect, let alone take it with his body. That's the Tempest Kick that can cut even a tailed beast bomb in half. In this regard, he could only bite his index finger, squeezed out the blood before the wound healed, and then slap the ground. Pop. Accompanied by the curling white mist, 5 Rashomons rose from the ground one after another. Bang 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 bang. But in the next second, the five-fold Rashomon was cut off by the chopping wave almost at the same time, but after tearing apart the five-fold Rashomon, the chopping wave did not disappear, but the flight trajectory was shifted. Although it was close to brushing the hair of the artificial man Senju Hashirama, it did not cut on him after all. One kick is as destructive as a tailed beast bomb. Cyborg Senju Hashirama took a short breath. No matter how powerful his sage body is, no matter how much chakra he has, he can't say that his punches and kicks are comparable to tailed beast bomb. Only possible with wood-style ninjutsu. Even not long ago, He had watched the battle between Carl and Uchiha Madara in the dark, but watching and fighting were two different things. Hashirama, have you noticed? Uchiha Madara's face covered with fairy face is full of heaviness. Find what? Cyborg Senju Hashirama is a bit puzzled. Maybe this is the first time you have fought against Carl in a real sense, plus all the memories belonging to Carl in your mind are gone, and you haven't turned on Sage Mode, so I didn't notice. That guy, your feet are stronger than the last time you fought against me. Uchiha Madara paused every word. Although the person who resisted the Tempest kick just now was not him, but the artificial man Senju Hashirama, but he felt it clearly. Carl's feet are stronger than before. Impossible. The practice of taijutsu is neither chakra nor blood succession, there is no shortcut. Only by practicing day after day and year after year can we gradually improve. There is no short-term explosive improvement like chakra and shuiji. Moreover, Mr. Carl's physical skills are different from others and do not involve chakra. It all depends on physical support. Can physical fitness also increase several times within a day or two like chakra? Senju Hashirama is unbelievable. Why did ninjutsu, illusion, and taijutsu get the least attention before the birth of Carl? And there was even a saying. Taijutsu alone cannot become a powerful ninja. It is because there are shortcuts for illusion and ninjutsu. You can learn a certain technique, or open a certain blood inheritance limit, so as to produce an explosive improvement. Only gymnastics doesn't work. The strength of gymnastics basically comes from physical fitness. However, the improvement of physical fitness is almost no shortcut. Take the 8 inner gates, which is the most powerful at this stage except the 6 forms, for example. After learning it, it does have a strong combat power. The question, can you learn it? For ordinary people, it is impossible to learn without practicing for decades. The power of 8 inner gates, apart from this technique, is entirely based on the strong physique of the caster himself. I can really practice 8 inner gates, and my normal body skills are very strong. This is also the ingredient that 8 inner gates uses chakra. Yes or no, you will know once you try it. Chakra, which is already as vast as an abyss, suddenly showed an explosive improvement with the use of Sage Mode. The artificial human Senju Hashirama closed his eyes, and opened them with a fairy face. But this is the fact, the Tempest kick just now, is indeed much stronger than when I fought with me a few days ago. However, it is precisely because Carl's physical skills have nothing to do with chakra, and are all supported by physical fitness. This also leads to the memory of Senju Hashirama. Carl does not exist like him, Uchiha Madara, who practiced Sage Mode, and then his strength skyrocketed situation occurs. Having said that, he couldn't help showing an incredible expression on his face. Uchiha Madara said in a deep voice. .0. UB ********** D is hiding again. At this time, in front of him after he learned Sage Mode, Senju Hashirama was fine if he didn't do anything, but he couldn't hide it once he did. The 6 styles. It depends entirely on physical fitness, unlike 8 inner gates, which involves chakra. Compared to Zhang Zhou, I think he has really become stronger. When Uchiha Madara saw it, he couldn't help cursing immediately. But Carl's body technique is completely pure body technique, or adding body technique is more accurate. In the past, he would continue to improve, but this kind of progress can be traced. With the passage of time, battles and cultivations, he has steadily improved. It is as weird as it is now, and his physical fitness has not seen a big increase in a few days. It was as if the two of them had never had it before. Unless he was hiding his clumsiness when he fought me before, but that's unlikely. Although I can't understand what kind of situation this is, after all, I have fought with Carl so many times, and this is the first time I have encountered such a situation. When the artificial man Senju Hashirama rescued him and blasted through several thousand hands against Carl, he did not show such a powerful chakra. Chapter 268 Fist with the Old Man. Second update asks for subscription. This chakra, not bad. The moment the artificial human Senju Hashirama turned on Sage Mode, Carl immediately sensed the explosive improvement of the opponent's aura. The celestial chakra fused with natural energy does not simply become larger, but the celestial chakra is several times more powerful than the same number of chakras. This is why the larger the chakra, the greater the increase after entering Sage Mode. At this time, the artificial human Senju Hashirama's fairy chakra is not inferior to the full 9 tails. Mr. Carl, your evaluation is a bit contemptuous. This time is different from last time. You were merciful that time, but I didn't try my best. 2, 3, 3. Quote. Cyborg Senju Hashirama did not perform ninjutsu or genjutsu after entering Sage Mode. Instead, he leapt forward and stepped on the stunned expression of Uchiha Madara. Technique. Dodge and punch Carl, are you rushing to reincarnate? Uchiha Madara couldn't help cursing. Before Carl turned out to be born, the physical skills of the Senju family were indeed powerful. Especially Senju Hashirama, immune to death's sage body, coupled with the huge chakra, as well as the strange power fist and painful feet, the cage-level strong face him, and they will be injured by rubbing, and those who are in the middle will die. Not to mention the android Senju Hashirama in front of him is stronger than the Senju Hashirama in the coffin and has entered Sage Mode. But the question is the person standing in front of the android Senju Hashirama a cage-level powerhouse? Fight against the old man. Interesting, your cyborg is bolder than the original Hashirama. Even he dared to drive wooden golem and fight the old man. After seeing the artificial human Senju Hashirama enter Sage Mode, the first reaction was not to perform wood-style ninjutsu, but to fight with himself. Carl laughed immediately, and then he did not dodge, stamped his right foot on the ground, and straightened his right fist send out. Boom. The collision of two fists was obviously just the collision of human fists, but the violent power was released, but it was as if two high-speed flying missiles collided fiercely, and then triggered a huge explosion. Carl and the cyborg Senju Hashirama just punched each other, and the surging shock wave spread out, instantly causing the valley to collapse, the waterfall to flow backwards, and the atmosphere rolled up air waves visible to the naked eye, spreading in all directions. Even the cage-level powerhouses couldn't bear the impact caused by the collision of physical skills between the two. It's just one punch. Good. Carl's eyes lit up slightly. How old is it? He almost forgot. In the Sengoku era, before he retired, no one dared to fight with him. Even at its peak, Senju Hashirama who turned on Sage mode would not dare. Back then, whether it was Uchiha Madara or Senju Hashirama, the two of them fought with him, not on their own bodies, but on Wooden Golem, and on Susanoo. But now, after turning on the Sage mode, the artificial man Senju Hashirama in front of him actually fights with him, and even catches his punch abruptly. Even if he hasn't used Haki yet, he hasn't used the real power refined into the body of Hidao, and he doesn't even use the superhuman skills of the Six Forms and Fistbone series. He just punches, but even so, his gestures, every punch and kick has devastating destructive power. It's no joke that one punch can tear the sky apart. Even in many Susan series, holding Yata Mirror, Uchiha Itachi's Susan, who holds Yata Mirror and has the strongest defense, can't hold a punch from him until ultimate. Unless it is fully opened and the Yata Mirror is held, that is a few random punches. But Senju Hashirama, the artificial human in front of him, took his punch hard. This evaluation sounds much more pleasing to the ear. Although the feet of the android Senju Hashirama have been deeply planted into the ground, and a stream of blood burst out of the right arm, the wound healed in no time, and he is still holding Carl's body firmly. But only good. When Carl heard this, the smile on his face grew stronger. I don't think so, Mr. Carl. After Senju Hashirama finished speaking, he plunged into the ground like a spear and a sharp sword, and his right foot suddenly rose from the ground, kicking Carl's abdomen straight with explosive force. Boom. When the right foot landed on the ground, there was no feeling of kicking flesh and blood, but only the feeling of kicking on an indestructible steel mountain. What made the cyborg Senju Hashirama frown even more was that after his kick was implemented, there was actually a heavy sound that made one's chest feel tight. That's it. After Carl took the foot of the artificial man Senju Hashirama steadily, his body didn't shake at all. Even at the moment when the artificial man Senju Hashirama kicked him, the air was stirred up and rolled up 100 meters away, like a wave of impact, but it still couldn't shake his body at all. Not to mention breaking the defense, you can't even make him shake. Sage Art Weird Power 5.9 Unparalleled. The android Senju Hashirama took a deep breath, and a cold look flashed across his eyes. I saw that he stepped on Carl's abdomen with his right foot, his body was raised up, and his right fist came out condescendingly, like an eagle hitting the sky, with a powerful and domineering momentum. This fist hit Carl's forehead straightly, like a torrent opening, and the mighty punch rushed out like a meteorite from the sky. While the ground was shaking and cracking wildly, the surface of the ground was also shattering and collapsing crazily. In an instant, a huge crater with a diameter of more than 200 meters, as if formed by a meteorite hitting the ground, came into everyone's eyes. The destruction that cannot be caused by ordinary S-level secrets is only caused by the punch of the artificial man Senju Hashirama. Chapter 269 In terms of physical skills, the old man would like to call you a silver medalist. Subscribe to the third update. I'm not the Senju Hashirama you remember. Remember, I am much stronger than him. So, Mr. Carl, if you still measure me by the Senju Hashirama you remember, then this battle will be the first and only defeat in your life. The artificial human Senju Hashirama crushed Carl's head with his right fist, and his body was like a sea of King Yang. The never-ending celestial art chakra erupted continuously, turning into a fist that could destroy the earth, constantly leaning on Carl's head. Click. The earth, which had collapsed into two deep pits with a diameter of more than 2 meters, continued to shake. Under the sound of a broken mirror, shocking cracks spread wildly in all directions like a giant dragon that had been imprisoned for many years and finally escaped. The range of damage is not as good as Susanoo, but the destructive power of a single point is as good as the perfect Susa under the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. But he is much smaller than the full-body Susanoo. The destructive power comparable to Susanoo's knife is condensed into 15 small fists. This power is unimaginable. Seeing this scene, Uchiha Madara was amazed by Senju Hashirama's body skills, but also dissatisfied with this guy's clumsiness. I originally thought that I opened the Sengoku Rinnegan and learned the same sage mode from Hashirama. This time I won't say that I will be the first in the class reunion, but at least I will stand firmly in the second position. But now it seems that compared with Senju Hashirama, the artificial man in front of him, he is really 40 to 60, no, 30 to 70. Kaba. However, just when Uchiha Madara was amazed by the body skills of the android Senju Hashirama, when he was amazed, a hand suddenly clasped the wrist of the android Senju Hashirama like iron pliers. What? Cyborg Senju Hashirama's complexion sank, and the celestial chakra in his body gathered in his fist, which exploded instantly. But what made his heart feel even heavier was that no matter how much magic chakra he gathered, no matter how amazing the power he unleashed, he still couldn't break free from the 5 fingers clasping his wrist. Among the people I have met, except for my ineffective disciple Might Dai, I have never seen anyone stronger than you. Of course, even might die can surpass you only when the 8th gate is opened, the normal state, or the state of the 7th gate is not as good as you. Karl ignored the strength of the artificial man Senju Hashirama, and after grabbing the opponent's wrist, he pulled away the fist that was crushed on his head. In terms of physical skills, I would like to call you the silver medalist. After the words of admiration fell, Karl grabbed the palm of the android Senju Hashirama's wrist and pulled it back. The force so tyrannical that the cyborg Senju Hashirama couldn't find words to describe it exploded, directly breaking his center of gravity and causing his body in midair to lose its balance. Unfortunately, what you met was Lao Wu, a gold medalist in the field of ninja taijutsu. Along with Karl's voice came the android Senju Hashirama's punch without the slightest smell of fireworks. Universal pull. Uchiha Madara on the side couldn't sit still seeing this scene. Entering Sage mode, coupled with the three-pointed Jade Rinnegan whose pupil power is better than before, he can already see Karl's normal punching speed at this time. A gold medalist. It is really fierce to the power of ultimate. But Mr. Karl, it is a pity that you are facing the two of us this time. Uchiha Madara didn't have time to rescue him, he could only watch the body of the android Senju Hashirama flying across 1,000 kilometers under his gaze, and then crashed into a distant mountain. Cyborg Senju Hashirama's pupils shrank, but at this time he had no time to perform ninjutsu, so he could only hastily raise his hands in front of him. I saw that Karl kept punching, but his other hand was like a plantain fan, waving randomly in the direction of Uchiha Madara. That movement was like an ordinary person's movement to drive away flies. As the body of the artificial man Senju Hashirama was embedded in the mountain, a mountain with a height of several hundred meters began to collapse. One punch landed, although it hit the artificial man Senju Hashirama's crossed arms in front of him, but there was a crisp sound of bones breaking from his arms, and at the same time his body was like a fired shell, flew backwards a kilometer in an instant. Whether it is 1 or 2, the number cannot be said to be meaningless to the old man, but at least it must be close to the old man's strength, so that the number will be effective. Click. Even though Uchiha Madara has seen this kind of fist many times, and even suffered it himself, he still feels horrified and moved. Senju Hashirama breathed a sigh of relief as he felt the gravitational pull enveloping his body. Karl's joking voice lifted the heart of the android Senju Hashirama who had just let go. Boom. So what? Bang. Knocked the android Senju Hashirama into the air with one punch. But when it landed on Karl, with just a wave of his hand, the force stirred the air, and the surging waves caused directly dissipated the gravitational force that was holding the artificial human Senju Hashirama away. In an instant, a high mountain that stood on this land for an unknown number of years had completely collapsed and turned into a pile of gravel ruins. Oops. With one punch, he stomped a mountain from a distance of 1,000 meters. Chapter 270 The number. 1 Taboo in the Sengoku era. You must never fight with Iron Fist Part 4. Please subscribe. Hey, Hashirama, is the person still alive? If you are not dead, just squeak. If I die, I guess I'm going to run away. Uchiha Madara, fearfully guarding against Karl, dodged into the ruins and asked the android Senju Hashirama who was crushed in the rubble. Although his words were joking, his tone didn't mean much of a joke. If the android Senju Hashirama really fights with Karl and accidentally dies, then he has no choice but to withdraw. He is not interested in fighting to the death with Karl for Shion, and in the end of the fight to the death, he is the one who will die in all likelihood. After all, he was willing to come to Karl this time. Apart from being competitive, he refused to admit defeat. The biggest reason was because of the artificial man Senju Hashirama. Boom. The cyborg Senju Hashirama pushed away the huge boulder pressing on him, and walked out of the ruins with a look of embarrassment. Although his body was smeared with the pungent smell of blood and bloodline, his body was unscathed. Apparently, his injuries had already healed in just a short moment of being buried by the collapsed mountain. With his sage body beyond the body, as long as the injury is not instant death, he can heal at an extremely fast speed, or regenerate. See what you're saying is human language. Cyborg Senju Hashirama has no air. Who made you a single-minded idiot to turn on sage mode and rush to fight Karl? The memory belonging to Karl in your mind has been deleted, but other memories should still be there, right? The number 1 taboo in the Sengoku era. You must never fight with Iron Fist, don't you have this memory in your mind? Uchiha Madara yelled, but he was relieved to see that the android Senju Hashirama was fine. If the opponent really died under Karl's fist, then he really didn't know how to do it well. Ontology Senju Hashirama killed him during his lifetime. Cyborg Senju Hashirama saved him. In the end, he died at the hands of Karl. This relationship is really messed up. I have memories, but after all, I haven't played against Mr. Karl in a real sense, so I naturally want to try. But he almost died. Thinking of Karl's fierce punch, the android Senju Hashirama couldn't help but feel a little palpitation. He can handle Susanoo's knife, but the problem is, Karl's punch is too terrifying. Surpassing Susanoo's destructive power, but condensed into the size of a fist, how terrifying is this power? No need to think about it, after being punched just now, he was very glad that he was still alive. Idiot. Uchiha Madara held her head, feeling a little helpless. However, Senju Hashirama's uncomfortable performance reminded him of the time when he first met Senju Hashirama in the Sengoku era. At that time, the two sides were obviously hostile, but he still felt that Senju Hashirama made him very uncomfortable, and he had to worry about that guy secretly. And now cyborg Senju Hashirama too. Obviously the strength surpassed the main body, but it still made him feel uneasy. I must remind you, although we have an advantage in numbers, it doesn't mean we have the right to act recklessly. That guy, even if you and I join forces, we must do our best. No, you have to risk your life to fight to win. Uchiha Madara warned with unprecedented seriousness. If the opponent was someone else, he wouldn't say anything to dissuade him at all, and he would even go out with him. But the opponent is Carl, but he doesn't dare to make waves at all. Madara, don't take me for a fool. Although I was interested in it for a while, there was also an element of temptation. Quote. The android Senju Hashirama stood up and patted the dust and bloodline off his body. Then what did you find out? Seeing Senju Hashirama's serious look, Uchiha Madara couldn't help but think that this guy is very reliable and stable most of the time except in normal times. Mr. Carl's physical skills are very strong, far stronger than I imagined. Cyborg Senju Hashirama said seriously. You don't seem to be confident. The sight and perception of the android Senju Hashirama locked onto Carl, who was walking towards the two of them. The unknown means that there is nothing to do, but the known, that's different. Quote. Cyborg Senju Hashirama shook his head. Nonsense, you have been beaten on the ground by the same person for 2 full ages, and you haven't won once. Let's see how confident you can be. Uchiha Madara dropped a sentence coldly, and before Carl could make a move, he took the lead in closing the seal. No, Madara, you misunderstood me. When Uchiha Madara heard this, his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Uchiha Madara saw Carl getting closer and closer in sight, and the hidden 3-god Jade Rinnegan slowly revealed gone. Just as Uchiha Madara was about to perform Sage Art, the android Senju Hashirama reached out and stopped him. Sage Art. Wait, Madara, let me try again. Entering Susanoo's chakra long knife empty-handed, fighting with wooden golem, and carrying true several thousand hands with his body. From Carl's past tough record, you can know how strong the opponent's physical skills are by just pulling one out fear. He's here. Danuos, hope you really have a way, not joking. Is this still a test with your life? Any idiot can see it. Quote. Nonsense, you took your life to test this information. Only when we clearly know what level Mr. Carl's physique has reached, can we know how to deal with him.